Welcome to
No Fucking Filter.
It'll be fun.
This episode is sponsored by Together We Co.
Together We Co. is a business management and virtual assistant service for photographers started by photographers.
They offer monthly subscriptions and standalone services including post-production, blogging, admin, image curation, website updates, and so much more.
We are happy to offer our listeners 20% off your first service by entering code 20%.
You can follow them on Instagram at togetherwe_co, and you can visit their website at www.togetherweco.com and enter code 20%.
Just to confirm, that's 20%?
20%, Lisa.
Sign me up.
Welcome back, everyone, to the NFF podcast. We have a very special guest with us today. She's the founder and creative director of Lovebirds, with over a decade of experience in the hospitality and event space. Her award-winning design and planning services aren't just about setting the stage, they're about creating experiences that linger long after the confetti has fallen. And yes, we did just take that off of her bio on her website. Okay, everyone, we want to welcome Dani Anderson.
Hi! We're so happy you're here.
That was the nicest welcome. And I actually had a moment where I was like, this is so well written.
Then you're like, because I wrote it?
No, I didn't, but I was like, my copywriter did. I was like, wow, this is the best description of me I've ever heard.
Yeah, we came up with it ourselves. Okay, well, we are so excited for you to be on the pod. We're going to pick your brain today. We have lots of questions.
I'm excited.
I think all of our guests and people planning and
We've had so many people asking for you to come on.
Really?
Not even just saying that. Every time we're like, who do you guys want to hear from? Your name has come up multiple times.
I'm so interested as to if it's because they know that it could go fully unhinged or there's just valuable information in my brain.
I think both.
Yeah,
I
maybe
think
both.
a little bit of both. But we want to start off with a cheers.
Yay.
So let's.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Thank you for having us in your beautiful space. If you guys are watching on YouTube, we're at the Garret with this beautiful brick wall behind us.
Yeah, we're switching things up once in a while. We're kind of we're in the studio and sometimes we're on site.
Everywhere. We are everywhere.
This is an honor for the Garret to host the girlies from NFF because I feel like the space is really perfect for this kind of thing.
Yeah,
and
it
truly,
is.
this is an honor for us to have you guys here. Yeah, I'm excited.
That's so sweet.
So are we. Also, usually in our wine glasses, it's water or something. But this is real champagne.
Not today. I would never.
Get wild.
I kind of had to twist the arm a little bit and be like, are we feeling coffee, orange juice? And everyone was like, you tell us. I was like, well, I'm always going to go for the bubbles. And then it was an immediate yes.
Yeah, immediately yes.
And I think you're just, like you said, riding that trail from Sophia's bachelorette party.
I have not stopped drinking. So we're just continuing the train.
I felt like I was there with you gals.
Oh, yeah, good.
We hoped that that's what everyone felt.
It was amazing. The costumes, chef's kiss.
It was really fun. It was a great time. We had a blast.
We left our souls in Scottsdale.
I have a question. As a bride who's in the wedding industry, have you found it challenging to plan things when you're probably inundated with inspo and things all the time? Do you get decision fatigue? Do you feel like you're will I make a mistake if I pick this theme or this option? Will I like this?
One, yes. But two, also, aren't we supposed to be interviewing you, Dani?
No, I have to know.
Kidding.
I have to know a bride's
No,
brain.
100%. If I would talk your ear off about this subject, I find it extremely hard because it's a lot of people are oh, it must be so easy for you because you must know. No, it actually makes it
too much.
Worse.
It's like the cook knowing what goes in the pie, and you're I don't want to eat it now.
Yeah. It's really hard. It's you think of all these other things that normal, you just wouldn't think of if you hadn't been in the wedding industry. So it's a little overwhelming. Definitely counting down the days. I think we leave in
Almost there. You're so close.
I think it's 3 weeks. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, it's really
And here you are
soon.
podcasting. You're committed. You're
yeah.
a journalist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're a journalist.
Okay, well, we're going to jump right into it. We want to know, like, how did you even start? How did you get into being a planner?
This is a really good question. I have spent my fair share of time like in other adjacent industries. So my first kind of adjacent wedding job was working in a flower shop when I was 18. I had just moved back from Europe and needed a job, and I like went and applied at this local floral shop in my hometown, and I was just working in the admin, like at the front of house, but I like loved it. And I was always begging them. I was like, teach me how to design. And they'd teach you like the basics. They'd be like, here's like how to make a dozen roses. Like, get out of here. Like, go sweep the floor.
Get back to work.
Totally, literally. And I was just like, I want to be on the weddings. I want to do like all the wedding stuff. And so I kind of got used to, I got to sit into like client consults and like understand how they like build proposals. And then eventually I got to kind of learn how to design a little bit more. And then I didn't stay there for more than a year, I think. But when I left, I was like, I'm going to kind of try and do this on my own. So some of my friends would hire me to do their weddings. And I kind of got to understand like the wedding from the florist perspective. And then I worked in academic event planning, which is similar but different. It's like you're booking big conferences or like welcome week, basically a giant party for students. But like I was like 20, so I had no idea what I was doing and just had like limitless budgets. And then I kind of got the bug there, but because I grew up in a really small city, I was like, this is not a real job. Like event planning isn't real. You have to go into like marketing, or you have to go into like something that's adjacent, and you just get to plan events if you're lucky. And so I never really thought of it as a career. And when we moved to Calgary, I started serving, and it was at like a steakhouse downtown, and they did a lot of events, and they were like, do you want to join the events team? And I was like, yeah, that's great. And then that's when I like fully got thrown into it. So I started floor managing. I quit that job and went and worked for a catering company. I quit that job eventually, and then started working for a restaurant group in wedding sales. So I had kind of been in every position basically that you could get to without being like a photographer or an officiant or a DJ, but everything else I was doing. And I was like, what is the like ultimate growth out of this? And when I was pregnant with my first kid, I just like knew, I was like, I need to start my own business in like 3 years was my plan. Like I'm gonna like have this baby, come back to work for 2 years, continue to build my roster, continue to build my client base. At this point, I was starting to get really well connected in the industry. I felt like I was like making my own path, but I was like, I still need a bit more time. I need a bit more time. And then I just kind of took the plunge way earlier than I expected. And I was like, I'm going to launch this business. And I started doing pop-up weddings during COVID. As like my first like little stab at it. It was like the cutest brand. It was called Love Club, and it failed miserably. Like not a single person. I was so early to market. It was like the pandemic hit, and a week later I was like, who wants to get married? And people were like, not us. So it like failed miserably. I think I had like one booking out of it, but I like threw myself out there, and I made all these vendor connections, and I was like, hey, do you remember me? Want to do this thing? And they were like, this is a great idea. And I think I was just way too early. And then at that point I had picked up enough speed, and people were like mildly interested in what I was doing. So I just kind of like rode that wave of being like, no offense to everybody who is panicking about their businesses like flopping, but I was like, I'm just gonna like dive in here. And I had nothing to lose. And so it made it a little bit easier for me, I think, to take risks in that time and like really just put myself out on the line. And then a year later I had, 10 bookings. So it was like, but I think the experience that I had allowed me to have that level of confidence, because I was like, I actually know exactly what I'm doing. It was more like me as the face was the scary part. It wasn't like the planning or the processes or the vendor connections. It was like, oh no, like I'm a big girl now and I'm doing it on my own. And that was, I think, like the biggest hurdle. And COVID in some ways was a blessing for me, because I got to take risks the same way everybody else kind of had to like adapt and move. And I was just like, I'm going to adapt quicker. I'm going to move quicker, because I have literally not a thing to lose. If this doesn't work, I will have to go back to my job in a year when everything reopens. And if this does work, great.
Yeah. It's kind of like divine timing. I feel like a lot of people get stuck in that limbo. Like a lot of people are working a part-time job and being a wedding vendor in some capacity on the side. And I think that's tough.
Yeah.
It's like taking that leap and finding the courage to do that is like, that's what you got to do.
When you take the like you have to take the leap in order for it to work out. I feel like so many people can stay in between for so long, and it's really opening up and making room for growth, right?
It was such a weird time. Like, actually, Sophia, this is very random. Do you remember a wedding at the lake house right before COVID hit?
Oh my God.
You were second shooting for TK.
Okay.
And it was this couple from the US, and it was like literally, I want to say like weeks before COVID.
Oh my God.
And they were at the lake house, and do you remember, you'll remember this, they had like a dress on the wall, like showing the way that she made her dress. Do you remember this wedding? And it was Lindsay when Paper Doll was still like around. And so Lindsay had hired me as like a kind of like a freelancer, and I was on mat leave at the time. And so that's when I started to really feel like, I know, because Lindsay and Steph, who used to run Paper Doll, were some of my earliest mentors, and they were so incredible in the industry. They were like trailblazers for modern design. And I remember them specifically telling me like, you're super talented, like you should really consider doing this on your own. And I was like, I'm just a baby. Like, I don't know anything. What are you talking about? And on that event, she was like, you know exactly what you're doing. Like, you should really think about like how you can grow this side of your business more. And COVID hit 3 weeks later. But it was like stuck in my head. I was at the lake house that night being like, I do know what I'm doing. Like, I do like understand how this day flows entirely, but it's just funny because you were there.
That's
and then
so
literally
cool.
like I bought my domain like a couple weeks later before COVID hit, just being like, I'm going to start silently working on this. I'm going to kind of start getting my feet wet. But it's just funny because you were there. So divine timing.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Sophia, you're my little guardian angel. You're my good luck charm.
It's funny how some people can just recognize your talent before you do almost, you know, and like they were your mentors, but they were like, what are you doing? Like, go, like do this, right?
You need that like push from someone to be like, no, like go do it. Or else you kind of get caught. We've seen it. We've seen photographers that keep their part-time serving job and are just like kind of struggling at both. And I don't think you can give it your all doing something else. Like you just have to take that leap and trust that.
I'm not like a good like 1 foot out, 1 foot in person. Like I think in my friendships, my relationships, my business, like everything that I do, I feel like to my detriment sometimes I'm like 2 feet in. And I'm not necessarily ever really scared of like failing. Sometimes I get really scared of like being stagnant. I struggle with patience, certainly. I think on the flip side, what I find really interesting is like, I think people perceive me today as like a very confident person. Like I think that is the impression that I give. And it's just it's so far from who I was at that time. Like I think about that person. It was funny. I like was cleaning up my laptop and I found this ATB booster video that I did because at the time ATB was sponsoring small businesses with good ideas and I won like a booster. And so I got funded for like to start my business. Like I think it was like $3,000. Like it was like a very like nominal but perfect amount of what I needed to like get my domain and like invest in some marketing. And that video, I remember recording it, I honestly want to say 40 times. On my like little iMac, you know, when you're like in like photo booth and you're just like, and I just like hit record. I'd like, hi, I'm Daniela Anderson, and I'm here today to ask for, like, it was so Dragon's Den, like Shark Tank coded. And I remember that like girl in some ways being like incredibly anxious about what people would think and being like, I'm a loser, like starting a business is so lame, like everyone's gonna think I'm such a loser. And I like can't even relate at all to the person now who's like, I will ask for whatever I need, I'll take what I need. Like that person's so different. And it's the evolution, I think, of motherhood, business owner, like all of those things. I feel like you wouldn't recognize me. If you were interviewing me 5 years ago, it'd be a completely different interaction.
And that's like that's how it should be, right? And like your confidence like glows. Like and maybe, you know, like back then it's like you have to see that progression, and it's a beautiful thing. If you were the same person, it's like stagnant and like you need to be growing. And I can't wait to see where you are in 5 years. You know what I mean? 5 years from now,
I'll be there.
Hopefully, you will be there at the pinnacle moment when like the next career shift happens.
Can't wait.
Truthfully, I would love for it to be like on a beach, and I want you to be like, she's rested.
I will try my best to make this happen for you.
Should we put it in the calendar?
I think you're manifesting it right now.
Yes, I love it.
But I'd like to be there too.
Yeah, you're in. Now you're part of this. Yeah.
You brought up motherhood. And so that's actually a big question that we had for you is like, how do you find balancing the both? Like,
that's a really good question. I think, motherhood is like inherently sacrifice in a lot of ways, but I think that at that time in my life, like I needed that. Like this is like very funny to a lot of people, but I got pregnant twice by accident. Like me and my husband, our first son, Ethan, like I was not expecting him. I felt like we were ladder climbing so hard. I look back and we were like just getting promotions, like working so hard. And I was like, I know what my career trajectory is. And same with him. And, I remember telling him on his lunch break because I'm so unhinged that I couldn't wait till like after work. And he just like went into like full airplane brace mode, like literally went like this. And I was just like, yeah, I'm excited.
The reaction
too.
you want.
Yeah, like this is so fun. But it was like a little bit panicky. And I think at that point I was like, I got to grow up. Like I'm still getting like wasted every weekend with my friends. I like need to figure like, yeah, that girl is still here. now that my kids are older, I'm like, she's back. She's fun. But I think like at that time I realized like I'm gonna have to really figure out what my goals are because I want to have something that allows me to be with my kids. And I think the wedding industry, funny enough, like obviously we're gone every weekend, but in some ways being your own boss, you just pick and choose. Like that was the most important thing to me when I was thinking about going back to my job. I was like, I'm gonna have no say in like what events I take and I don't take.
Yeah.
And there are gonna be days where this client is so shitty and I'm gonna have to be here because I have to, knowing that my kid is like playing soccer. And I'm like, I don't want to be in that position. And I think sometimes now as an adult, I recognize there are going to be those times anyways, but like I would rather be in the driver's seat and like choosing the journey. And with kids, like I have two, my son will be 5 this year, which is crazy, which means my business is 5 years old. Wow. My daughter will be 3 and in the fall, and I feel like I'm finally hitting the peak of like getting myself back in a way, like getting my life back, getting time back. But for some people, I think, you know, motherhood, it's challenging all the time, but it taught me so many things that made me a better business owner. Like I'm so protective of my time. Like to get time out of me, you're prying it out of my cold dead hands. Like you really have to show me as a client, as a vendor, as a friend, like what is the output here? And sometimes that makes me feel like a shitty friend or like a shitty business partner or whatever, but I'm like, I need you to show me the value of this because it's literally time taken away from my kids. It's time taken away from work. It's time taken away from my husband. So like prove to me that there's an output here. And it's made me a better friend in a lot of ways because I'm more selective, but it's also like made me a really good business owner where I'm just not taking like random coffee dates all the time, which are like the bane of my existence now. I could talk about that for hours. I also think like it's made me really confident because if I can keep my kids alive, I can probably do anything.
That's true. That's true.
But you know, you're a mom and it's like, I can keep you alive. Like what's stopping me? Like what's holding me back?
I think it just gives you this other sense of confidence because you're like, if I can do this, I can, which is the hardest thing in the world. Like I can literally do anything.
Totally. Yeah. And you assign a dollar value differently. Like I found that for me personally, I think these lessons would have taken me decades to figure out on my own, and having kids just sped it up where I was like, I got to figure this shit out tomorrow. Like I can't take the time to mess around with this. And there were like so many things I learned. Like I made so many mistakes, but I had to rectify quick. I couldn't sit in the mistakes the same way that I think if I didn't have kids, I might have. There are certainly challenges now. I feel like sometimes there are career opportunities that I pass on because I'm like, I just can't balance it. My partner right now is away, and like I feel that in my work where I'm like, I'm up, you know, there are nights where I'm up till 1 a.m. because I have to take morning and after school off, and then I'm like, I got to catch up. But motherhood teaches you to hustle, you tough it out. And so I feel like that's like sometimes what separates me in a lot of different industries is I'm like, I'm a tough bitch. Like I know I am.
Yeah.
And
you're like, I'm the CEO of this fucking house.
Yes,
like
I am.
Run this business
laundry,
flawlessly.
Instacart.
I feel like I can
my
run
portfolios
anything.
are banging. They are thriving, but it's like you really learn, like your learning curve is very steep in motherhood. And so you have to adapt quick. Yeah. And that I think served me well in business.
Yeah. And I think honestly, there is no, like, I get asked that all the time. Like, how do you balance it? I'm like, I don't, there's no balance. I can only be giving my 100% energy into my kids and turning my phone off or like it does. Mine are a bit older than yours. So my daughter just went to school full time this year. So I feel like I have my life back a bit, but
We also have activities.
Yeah,
Like I'm not really in
there's
that
so
phase
many
yet, which
activities.
stresses me out. Like we even just have hockey once a week now, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
That's
why is this
a
every
whole other
week?
podcast on kids sports, but yeah, you kind of just have to have tunnel vision a little bit
Yeah.
about what you're doing, because if you're, trying to be with your kids while answering emails, it's just not going to happen.
And that's my thing is I'm like, when I'm a mom, I'm a mom. Like I can't do both. I've learned that about myself so quick. But it's funny, like I remember the early years of like Ethan and Elisa. Like my first year in business, Ethan was a newborn, and I have this vivid memory of being at a venue that didn't have an elevator, and this was like one of my first clients on my own, and I had him strapped to my chest carrying glassware up the stairs. Like looking back, I'm like, you're so
Just a
fucking
superhero.
stupid. Like just hire someone. But I didn't know. I just was like, I got to get this done.
Yeah.
I don't have childcare. We're going to get it done. Elisa used to come with me to like every single client consult. And it was kind of like, how we were talking about the gauntlet of like, whether you're my client or not.
Yeah.
That was such an indicator to me whether you could vibe or not. Like
Yeah.
if you're not cool with my baby being in a stroller, that's totally fine. I get it. Babies are weird. You're probably not the client for me because I'm still breastfeeding. Sucks for you. Like, there's just things that like I had to like be really confident. That was the confidence curve too, is like, I'm not taking this baby to every single meeting. Like I have to own that. And I had to walk in, even though I felt like anxious and nervous and like not professional. I was like, I got to walk in and just pretend like this is normal because this is my normal. This is my life.
I feel that's so hard. When my daughter was a newborn, she would not be with her dad at all.
Yeah.
She hated him.
She was a girly.
Yeah, she would scream all night long. So I would have to wear her to photo shoots, but I would just show up and be like, what baby? What are you?
Totally. And it's like, you can't even call attention to it because then you give people the room to like have commentary.
Yeah.
And I learned really quick to just like not even apologize. Like there was times where I was like, I'm really sorry about this. And actually a person that I knew said to me, she was like, if you keep apologizing for this, you create the standard that this isn't normal or okay. Just own it. And I like took that and I was like, I'm never going to say sorry that my baby is here like ever again. I'm just going to like, this is my life.
Yeah.
This is how it is now.
And I think that's the thing about business is like, why build a business if it doesn't fit your life?
Totally.
Because having your own business is 20 times more work than going to work every day. So.
Do you ever feel like just like a crotchety bitch though? Like there are times where like, and I really try to respect everyone's journey, but like there are times where I'm like, I have this like, I was talking with somebody and they were like, oh, like this like 6-hour thing was so annoying, like so exhausting. And I like, my eyes were like twitching where I was like, there was one time where I had to drive from Bears Paw 3 times because Elisa couldn't take a bottle. So I had to like come back, breastfeed in between my wedding. And I had such an amazing team that they like were like, we'll hold this down for you. Just come back when you can, 3 times in a day. And I remember talking to this other coordinator, God bless her, being like, you don't even know how hard this can be.
Yeah.
Like you don't even know how hard this day can be, but you show up anyway. Like you have to show up anyway, because that's what we're hired for.
And I think that's why you have the longevity that you do, is because you've been like your life as your kids get older. I don't know if it'll get easier, but it will get more manageable probably.
You just know what to expect in some ways.
Yeah, you're like, I can literally do anything.
It's because we're all tough bitches here.
Yeah, you guys are tough fucking bitches.
But you're a tough bitch. You've been in the industry, Sophia, like you've been in the game a while. And I feel like weddings, as we know, burn people out and there's like so much turnover. I think the average is like 5 years.
Really?
Yeah, like I was reading this article about like people tend to like change industries or turn over out of weddings. Like they can do 5 seasons. And there's people who will hit like 20, 30, but like you kind of, once you hit that 5 year, it's like great.
It's right.
Yeah,
It's
obviously
either
the 1 year where you're like, no, that's not for me. But like most people, they can kind of make it. They have their first like 2 kind of like moderate seasons. Then they get really busy year 3 to 5. That's when they start to like be fully booked and they're just like, I can't do this anymore.
Right. And they like either choose yes or no. But yeah, I'm still going through.
Talked about that is how those people that get busy right away don't last because they burn themselves out. Like you have to build up to that busyness.
Well, but can you just hold this for a second? I just want to do something for a second. A round of fucking applause for these 2 women, because honestly, you guys are moms. Mother's Day is coming up. It's you guys are like heroes, honestly. My mom's an amazing like I look up to her so much, but it's like seeing you guys absolutely rock it and like Yeah, well done, you guys. Like I don't know. I like don't know the half of it, but I see you guys, and it's like you show up and you make it work.
With us working together.
Yeah, I see it so much more. I'm like, wow, like I don't know how you manage it.
I was recording a podcast and my phone was like blowing up, and I was like, oh God, I gotta take this. It's the kids' school. And my son was like, I cut my hand open. I need to go to the hospital, and I had to just like leave.
Yeah, totally.
Like, okay, cool episode. Bye.
And I give you a lot of credit as a single mom. Like I feel like my own journey with motherhood is my own, and everybody has their own. And I don't invalidate anybody's journey if they don't have kids, because life is hard for everybody in its own way.
Yeah.
I know my life has been hard, but I also like what I've learned and what I lean into all the time is like that journey made me who I am now. And there are times I look back and I'm like, when you have like a trauma response, you're like, how did I actually like make it through that? Like, you're like, oh my God, like I need to talk to somebody about this. But then you look back and you're like, that's why I always say like, I'm a tough bitch. Like that is like my mantra to myself in the mirror. So I'm like, you're a tough bitch.
Yeah.
Get up and do the work.
Yeah.
And like, that is the reminder. And so like, you're your own tough bitch. You're your own tough bitch. Like that's the mantra.
Yeah.
That's how we get up and do this every weekend.
Yeah, being a business owner, you have to be, because you can't, especially in weddings too, right? There's no like, oh, I'm having mental health day this weekend. Like, no, sorry.
It's so you have to like be able to turn it off in a way. And like, I'm sure like, I know even when you had Becky on and talking about like life throws you things. And I think we are learning as we grow as business owners, like when it's okay to be like, I actually like really can't do this, and somebody else is gonna have to step up for me and take this on. But there's been so many times where it's like your life is literally crumbling like sand in your hands, and you get up and you grab the clipboard and you run the show.
Yeah. And on the other side, our clients, like they understand, yes, we're a business, but we're also human too. Like things happen, and we're like, we are in an industry where it's a very personal thing that we're celebrating and everything. And we kind of, I feel like sometimes the lines are a little like, at least for me, I really love to become friends and like really close to my clients. It's not like any other business really, right? So I feel like they really should understand that we are humans and they get to know us, and our clients will be our clients that understand that, right?
But that's the gauntlet. Like that's like I almost like, when you have to like test people subtly to be like, are we aligned? And it's like, sometimes it's like you bring your kid to a meeting. Sometimes it's like you throw, like you say fuck a couple times just to see like if their eyebrows raise.
Just sprinkle it in.
Yeah, because you need to know, like, are you going to pass the gauntlet of like, and I always say this in my client meetings, like we're going to spend the next year and a half, sometimes 2 years together. If you don't want to grab a coffee, a beer, or take a hug from me, we shouldn't work together. And it's not personal. That's business. Yeah. That's truly business of you being like, you're not my vibe. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, but I could be. And I'm like, actually, no, if you're feeling that, like, and we're not aligned, like, I'd rather you know that now.
Those ones will always ruin your life. The ones you take on that you have doubts about will ruin you.
How many red flags have you had?
We're going to do a whole episode about it, but literally...
Okay, I need to know, can I ask a question?
A million.
What's your number one red flag? Like, if you're in a call with somebody, what's like the number one red flag?
That's such a good question.
I'm thinking. I
think if they don't laugh, because I'll throw in a couple like, I think I'm a comedian. And I want to
You're a funny girl.
I think I am. And I expect them to laugh accordingly.
Right. Or
so if
no
they're
emotion.
so serious, no emotion, I'm like, this is not going to work.
Dani, do you have one on your mind?
There's two, I think. The first one is if I sense a groomzilla. Like if the groom, and I'm not saying this to be sexist, so don't come for me, but if the groom is like nitpicking everything, sometimes I get a little bit like, you're going to be a problem for me later. And I love a groom who's invested and like wants to be part of the process, but I don't love a groom who's like, me. Like, I'm like, no, like, stop it. Like, this isn't just about you. It's a partnership. On the flip side, if a bride or anyone in the conversation says, like, I totally could do this myself, but we just need a little bit of extra help with this. Or like, we've done most of it ourselves. We just need a little extra help with this.
Yeah.
There's something about that says to me, like, you think that what I provide isn't really of value. No, I'm not for everyone. Yeah. That's fine. But like, you couldn't just do what I do, and that's fine. And so then I'm like, I have to think about what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
And normally when I send over the proposal, they have never they don't go with me. If that, because I don't think I'm in the price range of people being like, we just need a little bit of help. But that's always to me, I'm like, I don't know if we're aligned.
Sometimes comments don't need to be made, by the way. Like, I feel like I was just talking to someone about this, and this lady was saying, well, I could give you a discount, but I know I'm worth like this, and like you could go for this, but I know my work is worth this, and you do the same. And like, it was just a weird conversation she was telling me about, and I was like, that's just like rubs someone the wrong way as well. It's like, but even just those little comments, it's like, oh well, I could do what you do, and it's like, could you? Like, could
Then
you really
do it, Mary.
Yeah, like, do it.
Sister, grab a camera, go off, photograph your wedding. And I think that's like the piece where I'm like, I will never yuck someone's yum. Like, if you don't have the budget, or if you actually love planning events and you want to go for it, like, by all means, do your thing. Like, there's enough weddings in a year that that's your playground.
Yeah, you're not like forcing anyone to hire you.
I'm not a heart surgeon. This isn't life-saving work, you guys.
You emailed me.
What? Like, I always say this to people where I'm like, I'm not saving your life. Like, you might think it's well, but yeah, your mental health, your marriage, your family dynamic. Yes, I will help you in all of those things. But like, to me, it's like when somebody's really like thrown by the price of a wedding planner, at whatever level, I don't think it matters whether you're charging $20,000 or $5,000. You're always going to find people that are like, this is way too much. And it's like, that's fine. Like, I'm not a life-saving service. Like, this is not something that your insurance has to cover, babe. This is an investment.
Yeah.
True. You don't want it? Don't buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and value, like, we all know, but you get what you pay for, really, right? And like, and it is, sometimes you're not just paying for the service, you're paying for the person too,
Oh
right?
my gosh,
Like,
we talk about this all the time.
Yeah, I want to just pump we're amazing. I'll just look all around. We are amazing people, and
We're fun.
Pay to have us at their wedding.
like, that's where we're at. I'm like,
People do.
honestly,
People do
yeah.
pay us to be at their wedding. I think it's a value metric too. Like, what do you value? Do you value like a personal relationship? And I think there are couples who probably are like, honestly, this is very much a business transaction for us. And we have a certain outcome that we're looking for. And it's like, that's perfect because that market exists. Then there are people who want unhinged hens running around their day, hyping them up. And that's where we collect the coin.
Yes.
Exactly. So I did think of one.
Yes.
So when I'm in a meeting and someone is commenting about, I think like a lot of certain Pinterest poses or certain photos. And I just like to preface, like, whenever I hear that, I'm like, I am very candid. I like to capture the moment as it unfolds. If the moment presents itself, cool. But if not, then like and I will do some certain, like, if you are in love with this one pose, no problem. It's your wedding. I'm here to like capture that for you. But I think when it becomes more of a photo shoot rather than a wedding day, it takes away from it a little bit. So you can just kind of tell when someone's just, I mean, and like maybe they're just getting married for the photos. I don't know. Like,
I think it's like twofold. Like, I think that social media has created an unreasonable expectation of what weddings are and what they do.
Yeah.
And I also think it's made couples that normally I think wouldn't even consider those things be like, shit. Like, I need to get these poses. I want this in my house. And they're not really understanding like what the wedding is for. And it's kind of, to me, TikTok is like the worst part of the wedding industry. Like, I'm so excited for it to get banned. Like, thank you, Biden, for doing something good.
Sophia's gonna like drop dead when this happens.
I love TikTok from like an entertainment perspective. It's terrible for everything else. Like, it has made the wedding industry the most insane, unreasonable, and uneducated group of clients. Like, when you think about people going on TikTok and getting their information about weddings, you saw that story about the girl who charges $8,000 getting roasted, and people being like, you're literally the worst fucking human on the planet. Like, how dare you? That's TikTok.
She had like blurry photos, right?
Yeah, whatever it was. I didn't even look at her profile, but I was just like, this isn't whatever. Like, charge what you want, girlfriend. Like, make your bag.
I think it's all a conspiracy. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's this type of podcast.
No, I think, yeah, it's funny how things can just blow out, like blow up so easily on TikTok.
Yeah.
And it's like either beneficial and I think some of the negative is ultimately beneficial for some people too. But
Yeah.
I have had clients where they have taken everything to heart from what people are saying.
Yeah.
And I think there's a way to like filter that out. And
It's the education piece. Our clients,
yes.
right now, the industry, like my perspective of it is people believe that they're more educated than they've ever been, but they're so misinformed. It's not geographically relevant. It's not relevant to they don't understand budgets. They don't understand location. They don't understand time. They don't understand how the world works, economy,
For real.
inflation. Like it's really wild. So you have these clients coming in that believe that they've done their research. It's
Right.
misinformed. And then you're on the back end trying to be like, how do we repair this? So it's like kind of like that dilemma of like these couples being like, these are all the poses I like. And it's like, but that's not really how your wedding day should go. Or
Literally.
if you want that style, you shouldn't ask for a documentary style photographer or
Totally.
candid photographer.
I had a couple clients last year. TikTok took over. And, it benefited them in some ways. It made them think of some cool things to do, but it really, like, I had shot lists of 100 some poses, and I just said, this is just, like, you do have to repair that. You have to be like, okay, I want to go through this with you. I want to like make it realistic. And like, I also want to let you know that this is like kind of what happens, right? Because they are misinformed. And I'm on TikTok. Okay. I'm a TikTok queen. I'll just
and me
take
both.
that title. Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
And before my wedding, I'm all like talking about my wedding right now, but
No, I love
before
it.
that, I was trying to like inform, like, this is what you should kind of do, or like, this is just from a photographer point of view. But even then, do not take everything I'm saying to like perfect, accuracy, because every single photographer is different. Every single industry, wedding day, everything is different.
Yes.
So you really have to just take it with a grain of salt.
Imagine anyone taking anything on the internet with a grain of salt. The world would be so much better.
Literally.
No, but truly, and I think like we had a client last year, and the photographer is a very dear friend of mine, and she specializes in documentary, candid. I walked that through with the client. They loved her work. And then their final gallery, they had like they wanted more of the posed imagery. And there were so many things that led up to them being frustrated. They like ducked out of their portraits early, even though we advised against it. When we like talked to them about like what documentary style means, they were like, we love it. We want it to be all candid. But then they saw these images of people who look literally nothing like them. Like it's like you looking at a picture of Gigi Hadid and being like, that's what I want for my wedding.
I'm going to look like that.
And you're like, no, like you're going to look like the best version of yourself, but you're you, whatever you are, that's what we're working with. And it doesn't mean you're not beautiful and perfect and like stunning on your wedding day, but you're not Gigi Hadid. So like get over it. And that was I had to actually lay the hammer down a bit and be like, what you hired is perfectly what was delivered. You got 1,500 images that are literally exactly what you asked for when we signed you as a client. And now you're focusing on things that just don't really matter because you're caught up in what's happening on the talk.
I think this is actually, it's sad and it's bad. It's like, even for myself, I'm seeing all these things and I'm like, I know when to take myself away from socials and like just, sometimes when you get your dress, you just have to not look at dresses anymore. I'll just say
Truly,
that. Like,
truly.
And it goes the same for like, if you've planned something, just like you have to separate yourself a little bit. And it's so hard because you're seeing all these unattainable things.
Yeah.
And when you see a beautiful, like all this florist stuff, it's just, these are very
Luxury weddings.
luxury weddings, and it's not the everyday.
No,
right?
and it comes down to two, like, what are we doing here? Like, and I think like what I really went back to, and this is a contentious statement, so I'm
We
gonna
love a
cancel.
contentious statement.
Your day, your way, bullshit. Get it out of here. Burn it down. I'm done with it. I'm done with it.
Okay. This is a hot take.
This episode's getting spicy.
I like it.
And here's why. Your day, your way to me says, go by yourself. Like, you go with your partner, get married somewhere, see you later.
Yeah.
When you invite people into your day, to not consider their needs. And there's a balance here. I'm not saying you bend to Aunt Nancy who's asking for fucking the stars and the moon and the sky and her 300 kids to come. Like, no, I think there's limitations. I think that there's ways that you can make sure that your boundaries are respected and your vision is respected. But the idea that nobody else matters on your wedding day, get the fuck out of here. You're hosting first and foremost an event.
Yeah.
You are breaking bread with people, and we've lost sight of that. Like, truly, like, there are so many events I go to where not a single guest consideration. And this doesn't have to be oysters and like champagne flowing from a tower, but it is. I love oysters, BT dubs. But to me, it's like, when I think about a wedding, what is the most important day is like, I think about this all the time. There's 2 times in your life when you have everybody you love in the room, and it's when you get married, it's when you die. So it's like, well, you're dead the second time. So then your way, that's your day, your way, when you're dead. Because you don't have to care because you're dead. But like, truly, your wedding, it's like you're inviting all these people that you love. Why not make them feel good? Why not let them break bread with you? Why not celebrate with them? And I think that, like, again, it doesn't mean that it has to be 5-star luxury, but it's like the considerations of like, hey, maybe if we're going to be out of the city, let's have a shuttle so people don't drink and drive. Hey, maybe if we're going to have a ceremony, let's make sure there's food in between so that our guests aren't hungry. You know, if we don't want kids, that's fine, but then don't be mad when people don't show up. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. So I always tell our clients, like, if you're going to hire me, I'm truly here for you as a couple and your love story, but I'm also here for your celebration and your guest experience. And if your guest experience does not align with our value system of like well-fed, happy, warm, comfortable, inclusive people, like, I'm not into it.
Yeah.
And I'm tired. The more I hear like my day, my way, the more I'm like, best wishes.
I love
my
that.
new red flag.
I freaking love everything you just said. And
We've lost the art of hosting.
Yes.
In everything we do, in hospitality, in restaurants, in weddings, in events, we have forgotten somewhere along the way. I don't know if it was COVID. I don't know if it was TikTok. I don't know if it was like whatever it was. We forgot what it meant to invite people into our lives and host them and to celebrate them. And it can be simple. You think about like your grandparents. Nobody was rolling out the red carpet, but they said, come have a seat at the table and have a warm dinner and know that you're taken care of. And like, we really have lost that art. And I think that's why I stay in this industry so goddamn long. If it's like my life mission to just remember the art of like hosting and hosting people and making people feel important, what better way to do that than on one of the most important days of your life?
this is your mission. I am convinced this is your mission.
And that's why,
You said you're not out here saving lives, but
no, I'm not.
you are.
I can't do open heart surgery, but I can get you a good charcuterie board and make sure like the room looks nice. I don't know. To me, it's just like we've lost that art, and I'm like, I will die on this hill that like Instagram, people are going to move away from this. I'm telling you, the beautiful imagery that has no translation to how people feel, dead. To me, not interesting. And it makes it hard sometimes because you feel like you're floundering to be like, how do I prove to people that I'm a luxury service and it's worth the investment? It's hard to capture how people feel in an Instagram post.
I think that's what, like you said, that's what's been lost. There was just a very famous podcast host. Should I just say her name? Why not?
You're gonna get
Alex
sued.
Cooper from Call Her Daddy just had the most extravagant, beautiful wedding, changed like 5 times. So we're being bombarded with all of these photos, and it's stunning. But to think about, like, we know what it goes into that.
Yeah.
To change your outfit 4 times on your wedding day, you're not enjoying your day.
But there's
You're
2 different
in your
things,
room.
right? That's an event versus a performance.
Yeah.
And I think some weddings have turned into a performance. And again, like, to each their own. If your wedding is a performance because that's the status that you hold, that's the family dynamic, by all means, like, that is for some people and it's not for me. And I think what I'm struggling with is the balance of letting people know, like, I love this idea and I want you to feel celebrated in your day, while also recognizing that, like, this is a terrible guest experience. Terrible.
And it's your wedding day at the end of it. Like,
why all the show, like, why the showboating?
Yeah.
And again, like, I'm here for a dress change. I freaking love a dress change. Dress changes are practical.
Yes.
You can
Love it.
scoot your booty in them. You can, like, not ruin the $2,000 gown that, like, was going to be dragged on the floor in somebody's vodka 7. Like, you know, like,
also, LOL at 2,000.
yeah, sorry, I got married a while ago, if you can't tell. I told you, I'm misinformed because I'm on TikTok.
Yeah, wedding dresses are only $2,000.
TikTok told me that wedding dresses are only $1,500 and
Freaking wish.
And if I cut off the bottom, you can make me sleeves from it. Have you seen that?
Yes.
That viral thing where it's
Yeah.
like people asking for sleeves and they have like this much fabric. They're like, can you make me a sleeve?
I saw it on TikTok.
And the seamstress was like, this is literally not even enough to make you a scrunchie, sister.
I feel for everyone in this industry right now. I even see
We're tough bitches.
Yes.
So we're going to get up and do the thing.
We're educating.
No, but I know what you're saying. It's
Goodness.
like, it's hard to look at a wedding like Alex Cooper and be like, well, mine doesn't even matter because I am not doing all these things. And it's like, how about the time that you and your partner looked into each other's eyes and decided that for better, for worse, you're going to fucking ride this thing out. And your parents were there bawling in the front seat. Like, why wasn't that worth it?
I think we can all be maybe accused of being like playing into that part a little bit. I mean,
totally.
having like a wedding with a small budget that doesn't have the grand flowers, people that don't look like models. Unfortunately, a lot of people they shoot those weddings or they get hired for those weddings, but they don't share them on their social media. And that's something I've been really conscious about. I'm like, everyone's images deserve to be shared. And the more
So
we
true.
only show those like epic weddings, then the more we're just playing into that whole narrative.
Well, and clients finding us and stuff, especially for photographers, it's like showing that we're doing weddings that are, like anything, like.
And people that look anyway. Imagine
Exactly.
looking at all these websites and all you see are like models.
They can't see themselves in those images and stuff. So I think it is important to like just be, obviously we've been brought up also being taught that our feeds really matter and our presentation and our brand and,
What you post is what you attract. Oh
Yes,
my gosh.
exactly. And
Jinx.
it's like, but there is that hone into like, you can still do that, but like, and just share what you capture and like all these beautiful people because their love stories are still happening.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to like, we talked about the red flag piece, but sometimes the luxury weddings are full of red flags and there are people who choose that and they're such professionals. And I really there are so many people I admire in the industry that I know eat shit every day and they get up and do it anyways because their clients are difficult to work with. And I think I've been really fortunate at this stage of my career that I don't have a lot of like horror stories. I have a couple, but like for the most part, since starting my business, I can say that I've maintained a lot of connection with my clients. And I think I've noticed when I'm not my most authentic version online, sometimes I get weird things filter through. And so that's the gauntlet. Again, it's like, what am I putting in here is like a mine. And if you hit the mine, you blow up. Oh. And I'm not trying to like, you know what I mean?
Boom.
Boom. That's going to be the clip. It's just us saying boom over and over again. Boom shakalaka. No, but you know what you're saying?
Those people that can do that are more detached from it than we are. We were actually just having this conversation. We're like, I wonder.
They're better business owners.
Yeah, because they're like, sure, I'll do that. I don't need to love my clients. I'm like, no, if they're not going to be my best friends, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
But we were saying this about guys because guys, I mean, I'm stereotyping a little bit, but typically they're not as emotional. And the male photographers we know don't seem like they're as emotionally invested in these days as we are. And I'm just curious, like how their businesses run or like the photos that they're getting, are they able to recognize those really emotional moments because they're not as emotional? I don't know. It's interesting.
I think, it's like,
I think there's space for
individual,
everything.
right? And
like it's a business. At the end of the day, it's an industry. There's so many client bases. I think we align in what our client base is. So it's really easy for us to talk about the emotional, the heart driven, the messy. We can get down with that. Like my life has not been linear. So for me to get down with somebody whose life has also not been linear, super easy for me. I'm uncomfortable when a family is like so perfect. I'm just like, you have no trauma.
Yes.
You guys all like life's been perfect. I'm like, okay, like
we both have daddy issues, so
yeah, that's freaking weird. If it's no, I'm just kidding.
That's why you guys found each other.
pretty much a support group.
We've bonded over a lot of things. Well, we're also people pleasers, which we're trying to recover from, but naturally we're all about our clients and like, you know, so we can't get away from that.
Yeah.
I think with rebranding this year from Dani Anderson to Lovebirds, I took the leap of being like, I don't want to be the face of this anymore because I want the opportunity to scale and I want my business to exist outside of just me. I found that hard last year where we were scaling, and if I wasn't on site, my clients were kind of like, oh, like I had to do the handover and be like, this is so-and-so, and the trust took a second.
Yeah.
Now I've noticed people are like, oh, you have a team that makes sense. You're Lovebirds, you're not Dani Anderson. So I really have taken that leap and trusted that the people that work with me are going to maintain my approach, my status of like how I treat people, what's important to my value system. It was really hard last year to be the only person that like was the face. Like I found that really challenging on an emotional level, and I went through a really hard year last year. There's just like a lot of scale that happened in my personal life and my business, and everything was just fighting for me. And I think doing the rebrand allowed me to be like, this business has to exist without me sometimes. And that felt really good. But it definitely created, I had to do like a recheck of like who my client base was, because some of the inquiries I was getting, I was like, oh, they're just in love with the brand. They're not in love with me. And sometimes that's okay, but sometimes it was like, ooh, like that's a scary step to take of just like loving my work, but not necessarily loving my process or loving what I bring or loving like who I am.
And I think every year you just refine it a little bit more.
Totally.
'Cause you go through stuff that worked really well and you do it. Or you're like, well, that was a nightmare. Let's not do that again.
And you know exactly what shit gets cut. Like, and again, it comes down to being like the time piece where I'm like, I don't have time to make this mistake again. So like, it's off the roster. Like it's gone.
Yeah.
It's nice to get to a point where things are easy and, you know, things are flowing and you have systems and everything, but everything is constantly changing and your business will constantly change. Even if you're somewhere and it's working right now, 2 years down the line, something else will be working better, you know? So like just being open to like that as well. I do want to ask, like, what do you think is like the biggest thing that makes a good wedding planner?
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is contentious again.
Yes.
Oh, I think what planners need to do to level up is to get more experience on the ground. And something that I have found so valuable for me is since I joined the Iris Foundation and like was on the board, me and Maddie from Moments by Madeline started working together. And it was so funny because when we started working together, it was like dogs sniffing each other. Like, I'm not even gonna like sugarcoat it. We were both like, like we're so different. We could never work together. Like, how is this gonna work? And there was a lot of ego at play. And I think what I realized working with her was I learned from her and she learns from me. And we work so well together. We couldn't be more different in so many ways. But what brought us together is like same work ethic, same care, same heart, and so many things we didn't even realize we had in common because our aesthetics were different. Like behind the design, there are people, and we forget like we can be the exact same type of people and have the same interests, even though our design aesthetics are like literally could not be more polar opposite. And we joke about this all the time. What we're missing in the industry is people like getting on the ground a little bit. And I think my experience working with another planner, working for her sometimes, she comes and works for me, we help each other. The same way that I know photographers are better at this. You guys second shoot for each other all the time. Planners don't do that. And what we're missing is like on the ground experience in different types of events, trying different things, learning from other people. Like I love to go and learn from people that do it different than me, to either affirm my processes and be like, oh, I know this works for me because of X and X, or to be like, I've never thought of it this way. I've never considered that this could be a better way to run it. And my biggest challenge right now with the planning industry across the world, not even just in Calgary, is like there's really no barrier to entry. So you get a course, you complete it, you are certified, but you've never maybe worked in hospitality in your life. You've maybe never been on a floor of an event in your life. Maybe you have in like a very small capacity. To me, somebody who is well-rounded is somebody who can put themselves in every vendor's shoes. You're thinking about how the photographer feels, the caterer feels, the venue feels, how does down to like the smallest pieces of the event. And logistically, that's what makes it flow. That's what makes the event feel good. And it's, again, going back to that idea that it's more than just a pretty image. And the people that are the best at what they do, when you think of the experts in the industry, are not top down. They're not thinking of like, this is what I want and everybody subscribes to this. They're building from the bottom up, going, these are all the vendors that I have to build an event plan around to make this day feel seamless. And I think that's like the disconnect right now. So the best planners I can think of are the people that are learning from others. They're moonlighting, they're challenging themselves, they're collaborating, they're not just doing styled shoots. If you have extra time, go work for another planner on an event. Like truly, it will change your processes and the way you run events.
We all know experience speaks volumes,
Yes.
honestly. Like just being able to experience the mistakes in person, like, or the wins, or the, like, you learn
Yes.
on site. Like, you can take a course, you can go to school.
Yes.
You being in it
Yes.
is such a different experience.
And then you take that and you refine. You know, that's when education is so valuable, is when you have a hard skill set to go and then take a course and be like, this is how I make this shiny. Like, this is how I take this like gunk and shine it up. It's like, you have to get the gunk first though. And I think like I challenge a lot of new planners when they come and talk to me to be like, you should be moonlighting for another year. Like take on 1 or 2 design clients a year, build a portfolio, but like you should be out there coordinating, and it doesn't make you look less successful. It doesn't make you look like you don't know what you're doing. It's such a benefit to you long-term. Like what's your short-term versus your long-term self? Yeah, your short-term self might take an ego hit to be like, oh, it's weird going to work for somebody else. That's the best way you're going to learn. Like I feel so lucky that in my time when I was working as the wedding sales coordinator for a restaurant group, I had so many of the best planners worldwide, like, you know, nationally, locally coming into the space. And I got to watch them and work under them in a way because I was the venue. Those are when I picked up like everything that I learned, was like getting their production schedule and like stealing it and being like, I'm gonna like take this and take it home and like save it. I like literally have old production schedules from like 2018 from like planners that aren't even around anymore that I like held on to because I was like, oh, this is the best way to do it. And I think that we lack that because people are so scared to admit that they're not experts. Like people hate saying like, I'm not the expert in my field.
You gotta fake it till you make it, baby.
And there's a piece of that that's so true. I think it is so important to like, if you're not sure in what you're doing, dig your head in and go still. Like I'm the first person to say that, but I think there's a piece of humility to be like, I can learn from others.
No, I love what you said, and I think it's 100% true. You need to be working, like me and Lisa both started with other people as well, and it made us open up to like other ways of doing things, and you do just constantly learn from other people.
I also think the wedding industry is kind of like been glamorized in like movies and stuff.
Oh my God.
Like when you meet someone and they're like, what's your job? And you tell them, they're always like, oh, that's so cool. But like,
It's so funny that you say that because I feel like as a planner, the reputation now is that like anyone can do it.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, that's like your side job. Like it's like they literally look at me and think that I'm like,
have they not
some, like,
seen
goofy
the
gal.
wedding planner featuring?
But it used to be.
J-Lo?
It used to be this unattainable, unachievable job, and I think the market is very saturated, which is okay. Like economy will work itself out. Like I never really get too stressed about how many people are in the same field as me because I'm like, Darwinism.
Yeah.
Like it'll work itself out, and if I maintain my course, I ain't stressed. The thing that makes me kind of laugh, and maybe this is me growing up in like a smaller city and like just like people are like, wedding planning, like that's not a job. And it's like,
what are those people doing in your small city? That's what I want to know.
They're DIYing. Like it's
Wait,
not
where are you from?
I grew up in Regina, Saskatchewan. So
Shout out.
it's not like so small, but it is very like the value system doesn't align, right? Like people aren't paying for wedding planners there, which is again, like I'm not starting a business
I don't
there,
know.
so I'm
I
not
think
worried
you
about
should
it.
throw the most glamorous wedding Regina's ever seen.
I don't even know where to start. Like where would I, that's a whole other episode.
But you also stand out. Like, it's saturated. You stand out, right? Like that's
really
the
nice.
thing. Like you do need to figure out in any field, you need to figure out what do you bring to the table that's different? How do you show up that makes you unique, right? So,
I think it's experience. Like I think people obviously associate me with like a bold brand and I think I'm a good designer. I think that I have a good taste level. I think that I'm interesting. But I think what honestly, I will always like hold this dear to my heart is like, I know what I'm doing, and it gives me the confidence to make decisions and to make plans that other people might not. But it also makes vendors really trust me. And I know that my vendors show up so fucking hard for me on days. I know that people love working with me. That is my biggest accomplishment in my career. It's not going to Italy. It's not like doing these big weddings. It's not like getting featured. It's like, I know that vendors recommend me out their ass. I'm probably one of the first names out of their mouth. They're excited. They're excited when they have a Dani Anderson or a Lovebirds wedding. They're like, I'm excited for this day because they know it's going to be well run.
Day.
I was just gonna say, we would love to work with you more.
Yeah, hit us.
Y'all are on the vendor list.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It's like that's the piece to me that it's like that's what sets I think me apart is I feel really good in what I do, and I know that my team shows up hard for me.
Yeah. Circling back just really quickly on the piece of like you need to have that humility to like just like be working for someone else for a little bit and have that concrete stable ground to work up from, because honestly we've seen it too often with photographers that, like we said before, they dive in first year.
Crash and burn.
Yeah. Say it again.
Crash and then they burn.
And then they boom.
Boom. Anyway, okay, we have some more questions for you. So maybe you can touch on maybe your favorite current trends, ins and outs.
Okay.
I'm dying for this.
Okay, favorite current trends. This is tricky because sometimes I feel like probably how you feel, where it's like I'm inundated with trends. I get kind of like exhausted. I love the organic floral movement of just like interesting vases, lots of texture, weird kind of additions like fruit or vegetables. I always, if you're like a person who wants to stay on the trend and you want to see what's happening in the world, I always look to Australia first. I'm constantly
just saying that.
floral designers, wedding planners, fashion. I'm always looking at what Australia is doing. I find them to be just like so ahead. And it's challenging because we don't get the same product here, but I still like, I'm always interested in the color schemes and things like that. I love a downtown like urban wedding. That's always been something I'm drawn to. So I think that trend of just like finding these unique spaces in any city that are downtown, that are different. I love that. Art galleries, just spaces
Even
that have
Regina.
like, there is an art gallery in Regina, which would have a beautiful wedding, and that's where I would do it. But I think like that is really interesting to me. I do love the trend of, like, I love a dress change. I know we talked about the logistics, and it can be like, if you're doing 6, like, get over yourself. But a dress change to me is just like, I wish I would have had a dress change, because I love to get down, and I love that, like, you can just absolutely drop it to the floor, pop the booty. You can't do that in a gown the same way.
Our language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And non-alcoholic. I love, like, I've been pregnant twice. When I got pregnant the first time, there was nothing on the market. And I love that the industry has shifted enough that like the options in a non-alcoholic bar are so insane and so delicious. And it's just like so much better. And this is, you can cut this out, but like people like microdosing at weddings, hilarious.
Oh, we're not cutting that out. We
I'm
love
like,
it.
to me, like just the movement of people getting away from being absolutely trashed, wasted the whole night, and finding other ways to like enjoy themselves, whether that's microdosing, whether that's a pre-roll
I love
joint.
that you're nodding along, like you're like, yeah. Then I'm
like,
flashing
never-
back to last weekend, being like, yeah, that's
But I
so
just love
nice
the
to not
people
get
who are, like,
trashed all the time.
they're trying to not just be like throwing up in a corner. Like they're finding other ways to enjoy social engagements.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
We're just on an alcohol train right
This is going to be an explicit episode.
No, I love that. What do you like? I feel like it's hard to say what things are out because
I can tell you.
perfect.
Please do.
Okay. Things that are out to me. Oh man, where do I start? I think I said this earlier, but like things that just like make your guests have like a horrible time. Like I'm kind of over the sparkler exits. Like
we hate them.
The things that anything where you have to interrupt the flow of an event for a photo op.
Yeah.
Not for me. If I have to do another champagne tower, I don't love them. We've done some like fun variations of them, but it's actually just a waste of champagne, which is atrocious to
And
me.
a logistical nightmare because if you don't know, if you're not thinking, you're just pouring like things are, I don't know. Anyway.
I also think
Looks
this
cool, but-
is contentious. This is just like industry shootouts.
Shootouts, what are...
like a styled shootout.
Yeah.
To me,
Don't go to them anymore.
what I would love to see in that way shifting is I would love to see, like, this is me going like full Olympics, but like I would love to see a day where it's actually every single person has to come and do a setup of their own design and it's like in a time period. And then the photographers come in and shoot, but it's not like, it's like you manage all the logistics, you manage all the design, and it is like nobody knows what anybody else is doing, and it's just like a forum.
Like a showcase of your work.
Yes, and then it's like, that to me is like more fun, and I think like in education, what's lacking right now is a share of resources. It's people talking about the hard shit like money. It's people talking about the hard shit like the back end. Like we need to be doing that more. So to me, like I'm kind of like, yes, is portfolio building important? I mean, absolutely. Is having the opportunity for a creative outlet important? Absolutely. What's more important to your business is the connections that you're making, the way that you like interact with the industry, and like ways that you can like think about your business from like a financially, from like your financial part of your brain, you know?
It goes
like,
back to that like piece about your time too. Like I'm so jaded about styled shoots. I'm like, no one's paying me to be there. I'm spending money.
Yeah.
Why the hell would I complicate my schedule to go like take photos? I'd rather take them at someone's wedding that I'm getting paid to be at.
Yeah, and it's for like, for us, it doesn't make sense anymore, but for like someone just starting out.
For someone starting out,
I think it comes back to like, what do you need? Do you need to show off? Do you need to me, it's like, is that a marketing expense? Absolutely. You would never spend that much money on any other part of marketing throughout the year. Like you always have to look at it from like the big picture. So it's like, find the way that you're going to market yourself, but then also invest in like your systems, also invest in like other parts of your education. Go to a forum, go talk to other people, touch grass.
Like, cool, you have these epic photos, but your website is terrible.
Yes, the user experience is bad. Your contracts are bad. You can't even take credit card processing because you don't have enough money. That shit drives me crazy. So it's like, invest in that.
It also feeds into that unrealistic expectation again, because that was put on, this isn't a real couple. The dress was borrowed from the store. Like, it's not a real day. Like, we had hours to shoot it. So,
and
as
again,
much as we love them,
I think that they can be so beneficial to you as a creative outlet and as a way, if you're starting out in the industry, absolutely go to a styled shoot. Absolutely try things out. But it has to be supplemented. Yeah. That's my out.
Something that I think there needs to be more of is because like Lisa's saying, we go to them sometimes, but we go for networking. We love to chat with other people, and we love to like, networking and friendships in this industry is really important.
So important.
Right? And I love to get to know other people and like create that.
But do you know what you gals do well? And this is something that, again, comes down to experience, is it is about giving value and before you take value.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes networking can feel very take. Yeah. And I think learning how to be a good industry member is learning how to give as much as you take.
100%.
And asking people cold out of the blue to go for coffee, to pick their brain, sucks. Yeah. You know what? The best thing, I had a new vendor in the industry. This was like mind blowing to me of how they did this. They wanted to work with me and they were like, we want to connect with you. They didn't just ask me to go for coffee. They sent me a gift card first and they said, we know that you've been really busy. We see how hard you're hustling. Here's some here's coffee on us. And immediately piqued my brain to be like, that's really nice. Wow, you didn't have to do that. We then ended up meeting for drinks later. When I got them booked for our first wedding together, they sent me a bouquet of flowers. And it was the nicest, it was a little touch. It wasn't extravagant. It wasn't over the top, but it was like, they found the way to be like, I'm not just going to take you for coffee and pick your brain for an hour and not really offer anything. They were like, we're going to set the stage first that this relationship can go both ways.
Oh. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that was the piece to me where it's like, I think networking sometimes can be tough because people don't know how to give as much as they take. You know what's like, even when people slide into your DMs, I'm sure you guys hear this all the time. How did you do that? Teach me how to do this. How about we start with a compliment and say, you're so talented. I love your work. Yeah. I would love to learn from you sometime. Because that sets the stage to be like, this person values what I do. It's not just take, me, give. Teach me. It's literally it is the number one problem in our industry right now. And people wonder why they feel like us old crotchety bitches are so jaded and we don't go for coffee. It's because what are you bringing to the table for me? Like, I'm sorry to make this transactional, but I'm like, we're busy. Like, tell me how this makes sense to me. I can think of the best experiences I've had. One of my number one vendors now was somebody who reached out and she said, we have a mutual friend. I'm new to Calgary. I really admire your work and I would love to just find a way to connect. There was no pressure for coffee. It was so, and it started again with a compliment. And I'm sorry, we're human. Stroke my ego. Tell me you like my hair. Tell me I look cool.
We
like
love your hair.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like the same thing. It's like the way you connect with people first sets the tone. And if you're just asking right away, can you teach me how to do this? I don't know how to do that. Can you tell me your prices? It's like, start with the basics of being like, I really love your work. I think you're so talented. I admire you. I look up to you. Start the relationship. You don't have to be sending gift cards. That's just an example. But to me, it's like, don't just go in with the ask, man.
Yeah. So true.
So this is my lesson. If you're watching and you're new to the industry.
The gift cards are going to be overflowing for you.
No, I don't want any more gift cards.
Stacks of cards coming in.
But think about relationship first.
Yeah.
It isn't just an ask.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Well, now can we ask you about your prices?
Go ahead. I'm an open book.
I feel like people generally have no idea how much a cool wedding costs. Tell us. Like,
cool wedding. That's
average
a really good
wedding,
question.
average amount of people, nothing wild, but like
I would say our clients range from, honestly, like on the low end, maybe $50,000 up to, we're doing some that are $200,000. And cool wedding is all about taste level, value, guest experience. Like, those are the three. And I'd actually put guest experience first. Like, the coolest weddings have the best guest experiences. And your guest count. Like, your guest count is the most definitive indicator of where your budget is going to go. And I tell this to people all the time. The more cool of a wedding you want to have, the higher your guest count, the more you're going to spend. So like, if you can dial it in to who really matters to you on being there, whether that's, for some people, they can get it down to 40, some people can get it down to 150, whatever that looks like to you, that's going to indicate your budget. Like, the number one piece is how many people you have there. And so I think a cool wedding, to me, I like to work with budgets starting kind of at, if you're like on an average wedding is, let's say 80 to 100 people, I think we need to start at kind of like your all-in budget has to be around 60 to 70. And our clients usually hit around that mark. We have some that are lower, but they, again, have a value system where they're like, we really care about these three things. We want our guests to have a really good time. We don't really care about like having 100 entertainment components. We don't really care about having charger plates. Like, we figure out where their values align, and that's the cool thing. And I always think surprising people is where the value is in like a cool guest experience. We do this all the time. I've done things where I think this is what is like quintessentially the Lovebirds experience, is something to kind of like shock people. Like, they're like, whoa.
Unexpected.
Yeah. So like, we've done pop-up karaoke bars. I call it karaoke power hour, where it's like a karaoke machine comes on the dance floor at 11 p.m. It breaks up the dance floor. People lose their shit. And it allows people that aren't dancers to get on the mic and sing Garth Brooks.
Sophia's brain is going to explode because now she's going to get all
it's such an easy thing that like changes the course of the wedding evening. A surprise musical performer, an artist on site. I love, like, our lavish guest is a great example. It's like a photo booth that's elevated. There's things that like surprise your guests. They're not, you have to remember, we're so saturated in this, so we see this shit all the time. People are like, I've never seen this in my life. Boom.
But when we show up like that, that's the real test. Like, if something surprises us, or the food is so good, or something is so cool, then that's when we're like, okay, she came to play.
There's like little infusions of like what makes a good, like, cool experience is like, you're reflected in it, the guest experience, and like a little bit of wow, a little bit of shock. And sometimes the shock is like a really low investment. Karaoke power hour, $600. Nada.
Boom. That's a new freaking thing, I guess. I love the surprise factor. Oh gosh, I could just talk about my wedding all the time on here.
I love it.
Please do. That's really
no, I am there's a surprise, but it's for my soon-to-be husband.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and like so instead of just doing the traditional like gift to him in the morning, like I have something small, but
come out after.
yeah, exactly. So we go to our ceremony, and then for the cocktail hour, he was really, really wanting this guy that's specific. He does pop-ups in Victoria. He's called the Traveling Mollusk or something, or Wandering Mollusk. There we go. So he does oysters, oyster shucking on site. Luke could eat the whole freaking truck, okay? Like he is obsessed with oysters. When we were in the beginning of wedding planning, he took his card and he was like, this is one thing that I would love to have at our wedding. And then we started planning and we realized budgets and like all this stuff started adding up. So he gets his card. He doesn't know about it, but after we come out,
such a good surprise.
He's gonna be so happy.
And people feed off of joy, and I think we forget that. Like, if you aren't enjoying it, like, if you don't have the thing that lights you up on that day, if you're so stressed about what your arch looks like and your dress change in 3 hours, like, you're not gonna have fun, and other people pick up on that.
We see it all the time.
Truly,
the bride, like the couple themselves, they set the tone. If they're having fun, they're getting emotional. It's just, you're
so
right.
true.
They feed us.
The vibes.
And that's the investment. Like I always say is like, your investment with us is that you're present. And like, if you don't trust us enough to be present on the day, don't hire us. But like
then why are they hiring you?
Truly. But like to me, it's like I am allowing you to be 100% present on your day. You're not thinking about a thing. You know that every detail is taken care of. And most importantly, the people you love the most are taken care of.
And that's kind of what we sell too, is like the photos will be with you all day.
Yeah.
Very close. Yeah. But the photos will be the last thing on your mind because you've met us, you've seen our work, like you don't have to worry, did you get that? Because we did.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
I think that's the experience, right? It's like someone with less experience is fumbling around. People pick up if we're stressed because our lens or whatever, like people can pick up on that. So.
Yeah, as much as the couple feeds the energy, like you need to pick the right vendors because they can set the tone for your energy because they're around you all the time, or they're like,
I have like a hard no asshole clause for vendors where it's like, if you are not, like, if you don't vibe, I'm sorry, like I will not recommend you. And
do you want to tag all of the assholes?
all the assholes? No, to me, it's
take
just
them in
like,
the comments below.
I don't care how good you are at what you do, and we're really lucky in Calgary. It's like far and few between, truthfully. But like, I do think there's a piece of like, in order for me to do my best work, I need to be surrounded by people that bring the same energy, the same love and light. You're whining and complaining, like, get out of here. You're like telling me you're tired 10 times. I'm tired too, babe. We're here to do a wedding. Let's go.
Good luck ever.
Tired than you.
Good luck ever getting like working together again.
No, but people, you would be surprised. You would be so surprised at the amount of times you hear people. And to me, it's just like, it's one thing to say, you know what, I'm having like a rough go today, but I'm here and I'm showing up. Yeah. And it's another thing to like, if your energy isn't bringing the place up, why are you there?
Yeah.
Love and light, babes. Love and light.
Love and light.
Let's go. Okay, so if a couple doesn't have a huge budget and they're trying to like, you know, keep things in check, where are some places that you think they can save some money or
Great
things
question.
they can cut?
Guest list. No, truly, like your guest list, you really need to consider that. I think the other piece is, I don't think open bars are really an expectation in Canada. So I always tell our clients, like, find a way to celebrate your guests where they will note that they feel very celebrated, but you don't have to supplement the entire bar.
We hate open bars.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings. I've seen some really beautiful and well done open bars where the event just flows better. I've also seen them turn into hot messes. Oh, yeah. I think as you age though, it's like when you're 24, an open bar is literally the best thing that's ever happened to you. When you hit 30, which I think a lot of my clients are now in that age demographic, it's like we can afford our own alcohol. Like we don't care. You know what I mean? It doesn't hit the same. When you're 20, when
you don't need to order
think
13
about yourself at 22. You're like, open bar? Like, like you're like literally it's your birthday. It's Christmas.
Yeah, this is my day now, bitches.
I think you have to be, we should have a law that you have to be over 28 to have an open bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's like the tipping point. When you hit like 26, 27, 28, you're like, I can afford to drink whatever I want most of the time. So I'm not like, I don't really care if I can get a kokanee for free. Like, it doesn't matter. But when you're 22, it's like too much. So anyways, I agree with you. I think like that's a good way to cut down, is like thinking about one impactful way and then letting your guests kind of support you in that. I think the other way is just like, less is more. So if you have a restricted budget, find the way to make your aesthetic impactful, but less is more. If you can't do it right, just remove it.
And
like,
do you think
truly.
venue choice is a way too, right? Like choosing a good venue is going to
Yes.
save you money.
Totally. I think you have to know the upfront costs of what you're investing in. I always say restaurant weddings have a lot of value because the food and the bar minimum are included. The space is generally very curated and highly thought out because it has to it has to sell itself every day.
Yeah.
So that's a really great way. I think people think they're saving money sometimes when they choose like a golf course, but you get things get reduced there. Or you have, but you have like, I have experiences right now, like there's a lot of turnover, things are changing, contracts change, sometimes there's a lack of professionalism, like it really depends on what it is. To me, I always say like, don't put lipstick on a pig. If the backdrop can go without an arch rather than you putting a shitty arch up, do that. That'll look better.
Our officiant said this actually that we had on Cole about the mountains. He's like, I die. People will haul this giant ass ugly arch to the mountains.
He's probably said that about me.
He did mention your name.
He was like, that one time Dani did an arch in the mountains was so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, but people will put this arch like literally blocking the mountains that they hiked up to. So yeah.
Oh yeah,
you just gotta
100%.
like think about it.
I can touch on my wet. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not doing an arch, but we have a natural backdrop. We're in the woods. I had a meeting with them. They're my wedding couple for this year, and they're like, okay, like someone just mentioned like, what should I be doing to like decorate my ceremony? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. She's like, she's bringing up all these things that I haven't ever thought about. And I'm like, don't let her influence you.
Yeah.
Like, if your space is perfect without something, you don't have to do it. Like, if you're in the woods speak for
Why
itself.
did you choose the woods if you don't love the woods? Like truly, and I think about this all the time, like you enhance your surrounding, you elevate, you use what you have as a backdrop and you elevate it. And sometimes if your budget doesn't allow you to elevate it, then you maintain. And like that to me is like the number one thing, is just like, stop choosing things that you think you need just to like throw lipstick on it. Like it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. But where do you see the future of weddings going, or what's the next like upcoming vibe of weddings?
I think you're going to see a mix of people going back to like, I think post-COVID, people want to party. So they're like, I want 200 people and I'm going to throw a rager. And I'm like, yeah, let's get into it. Let's have fun. Let's break it down. I think on the flip side too, I do believe you're going to see a generation of people who want to go back to the art of hosting, and they want to have it be really, like their guests be really well taken care of. That's my hope. That's like my manifestation, is that like we go back to taking care of each other. I think there's like this culture around like I said, my day, my way, where it's like you create these barriers for people to celebrate you. And at that point, it's like, just cut it down, you know? I also hope that we get into a place where like weddings become really private. I think I can see people moving in that direction, where even celebrities teasing like couple photos and then leaving the rest for themselves. I see that being a huge piece of it.
I mean, that doesn't bode well for us, but
no, I think it's actually
supportive.
I think it's actually great for people like you, because your styles bode well for people who actually care about the day.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And I think people are going to go back to that feeling of like, I want to look back on this day and know that it was just like for me and my partner and our loved ones.
Yeah.
And sharing it is only because I want people to feel that joy, not because I want it to be performative. I think we're going to see a move back to that, especially in, I think, our local scenes. I think I can see this generation of people that met after COVID that are a little bit older, a little bit more mature, that are like, I know for my wedding day, I need to bring everybody together and have a good time. And so I think that's going to influence us really locally. I hope that destination weddings stay the trend. I love them. I feel like taking 30 people or 40 people that you love and celebrating somewhere else is that was my dream wedding. It didn't happen that way for me. And I always think like what an honor it is to do that with other people, like how you're even going to Victoria. Like it doesn't have to be Italy. It doesn't have to be, Mexico. It can be anywhere else, but people are so present. And I love that. I love that for the future of weddings.
And it's more of like a weekend. I think about this often, you mentioned like a downtown city vibe, but if everyone's from here or it's only just the day, it's kind of almost like weird. Like they show up for a couple hours. Maybe you say hi to them. If you have a room full of people, you're probably not like
engaging with them,
or, like, really hanging out, and then it's over.
Totally.
So.
I think that like weekend events are becoming even like the old way of doing it, where you'd have like a bit of a social and you'd host people for like a couple drinks. Everybody got to know each other. One of our really good friends is getting married this summer, and a lot of his partner's friends don't know a lot of our friends, and so they're hosting like a barbecue, and it's super simple. Like it's not complicated, but I'm like, what a great way to make sure everybody knows each other before the wedding.
For me, like we picked Victoria because it's our favorite freaking place, and half of our guests have never even been. And it's something that we're sharing a little piece of ourselves to them, which is so sweet. And like we have told them all our favorite places, and we encourage them, don't like make it into a trip away. Like make it, go explore or go to our favorite places. Like you won't be disappointed. This is such a feeling. Like it goes back to that feeling. And that is the whole reason I had to go there, because I know if I had a wedding here, I would be like editing a freaking gallery the morning of my wedding or something, or like answering a call, or like
or inviting people that like you don't know you even would want there, but you feel the pressure to. That's the beauty of destination, is you usually can really boil it down, because you're like, we're all going to be in the same town or countryside for 4 days or 3 days. Who's going to vibe?
It does make it into like a little bit more of a weekend too. Like we have our rehearsal dinner, and then we have a brunch after. It's like, it's not just that one day. It's like we got some chill and family time and friend time around it too.
I love it.
I do feel like there's a little risk involved though, because what if two people don't vibe? Do you ever see that?
All the time.
Tell us your craziest story.
Oh my God. The craziest story I need a whole other podcast episode for.
We'll have you back.
I think that to me, when people don't vibe, that is selfish. Like you are choosing your own. It's okay. Like there are people all the time I go to weddings, I'm like, oh, that guy sucks. Like I'm just like, ugh, walk out, like move. Like you don't have to sit with that person the whole time. And even if you do, like just like nod your head and move on. Like there's a reason that person's in the couple's life. You don't know why that is. It's not about you. Like in that way, it's like really not about you. And even when it comes to wedding parties, like I've seen it before where I've had a bride who had like her new friends from like her work and people that she was really close to maybe in the last like 5 years of her life alongside her childhood friends. And I have seen these girls' stomach, like I've seen it on both sides where it's like bitchy and shitty and like whatever. And I've seen the other side where I remember talking to one of the bridesmaids, and I knew that she was having a rough day. Like I knew that she felt maybe not included as much, maybe like, but she showed up so hard for her friend that day. And I said to her, I was like, how are you doing? Like, I just kind of could tell. And she was like, you know what? I don't necessarily understand why these people are in so-and-so's life, but I love her so much. And she's so important to me that like this day is about her. And
it's one day.
And she's like, I will go home and bitch to my husband for the rest of my life. Like I will never stop talking about how this day sucked for me in some ways. But it doesn't matter right now because she's one of my best friends and I have to show up hard for her. And I just remember thinking about that, and I'm like, that's what it is. Like we're so into like boundary culture and like protecting ourselves. It's like sometimes you got to be a tough bitch and you got to put your bridesmaid's dress on and you got to just show up. And that's what
that smile on your face. Pour the bride a mimosa and shut the hell up.
And shut the hell up.
You heard it here first.
Okay. Well, I think you pretty much answered all our questions.
Wait, I'm gonna
Is there any you're dying to?
I'm reviewing.
And then we have our little game at the end.
I know. First of all, we could talk with you forever, honestly.
For real.
Oh yeah. How about some advice for newly engaged couples?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. Hire a planner. You heard that here first too. No, I think to me, from like the business side of my brain, when you're planning your wedding, I think identifying your value system is so important. I think putting yourself in the shoes of the people around you and thinking about how they can best celebrate with you, how you can best celebrate is like such a really good exercise. I think for newly engaged couples as well, it's like take a beat. Like this idea that everybody's booked and everybody needs to be rushing to get the next wedding vendor and your date is going to be gone. It's like, shut up. There's 365 days in the year. There will be a wedding venue. There will be an opportunity for you to get married.
Will be.
Like this rush to the finish line is like, soak it up. Because marriage is very different than being engaged, and both are special and lovely in their own ways, but being engaged is like a high if you let it be. It is so fun. It can be so
only
special.
Time you can say fiance.
Fiance. But I think to me, it's like, embrace that a little bit. We're not in this like post immediate pandemic era anymore of like, if I don't book this thing tomorrow, it's going to be gone. Like, I hate that feeling. My number one pet peeve is people posting like, only 3 spots left. Like, for 2027, you better book it now. And it's like,
That's a tactic too, because I guarantee you they have 20 spots left.
Can you just take a beat? Like, making your clients rush to the finish line impacts everybody so negatively. So to me, it's like, if I am engaged, what I would do right now is I would soak in it. I'd take a little vacay. I would relax. I would pin. I would just hang out for a minute. And then when I feel like the wave of, the immediate high wear out for a second, I'd be like, all right, it's time to make some decisions.
Yeah.
But doing that when you're like literally at peak height is bad for your wallet. It's bad for your relationship. It's bad for us. It's bad for me when you're stressed out. When you're coming in like high strung, that's not a great way to start it out.
No, so true.
Yeah.
What order do you think people need to book their vendors in?
I used to say planner, venue, interchangeable, photographer. What I'm noticing is people will book photographers first, or they will book venue and then photographer. I think it really depends on what your budget is and what your dream looks like. If you are not set, if you have an idea and you have an experience in mind, but you're trusting the process, you should hire a planner first.
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee you I will find you the best venue with the best date and the best team to go with it.
You heard it here.
If you have a very specific venue in mind, then I think you go venue and then planner, photographer, whatever kind of makes sense with your budget.
Yeah.
But I always implore people, like, you will have the better experience if you're open-minded.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, the stuff that I've sourced, the places I've sourced, the things that I've found, when you give me the flexibility, something I do that's kind of weird for especially our destination clients is sometimes they don't even have a date. They don't even have a date. And I will like block off. I have processes in place where I'm like, we have to book a date within this time frame, because I'm like, give me the flexibility, man. Like, give me the time to go out and find you what's best for you.
Yeah.
And we have a period in mind. We're like, we know September, but they're like, we're not fussed if it's September 14th or September 21st. Like, we don't care. And I'm like, great. And I go on my merry way and I go and I pull the best possible options, and it's so much better. So I'm like, if you're one of those people that you're like, we know kind of what we want, but we're open to what you can offer us, as a full planner, to me, there's nothing that delights me more.
That's a green flag.
That is a green flag. I like it.
And a lot of my clients are like that, and I love that.
But just to clarify, photographer is like basically near the top.
Absolutely top 3.
Top 3.
And if you don't book your photographer in like your top 3, like that will show.
Yeah, that will show.
The outcome. Yeah.
Okay, we're getting to the juiciest questions here.
Oh, no.
So have you ever been in the position where you've onboarded a client and then gotten to a point where maybe you aren't aligning and you had to break up with this client?
So I have a very good gauntlet, so it hasn't happened to me very often. I did have a client that was ready to sign. Like, we had our consult call. It was great. I sent over the contract. They had sent a lot of revisions. And I had made the mistake with this client where I knew what they wanted for their vision exactly. So before they'd even signed their contract, I had sent over like my vendor guide. I had sent over like, here's who I think we should hire. Like, I had like a really big to-do list because I got excited, and it was something like I learned not to do anymore. It's like, you can pay your contract and I could be percolating, but until that contract comes signed, you're going to get nooch. Like, you're going to get the overall vision, but you're not getting like a direct mailing list of people.
You gotta pay for that.
Totally. And so anyways, this client had sent back a lot of revisions to my contract, which some of them I was like, okay, this I can manage. And some of them were things like, we want to choose which photos you can use in your portfolio. Like things that I was just like, that's a red flag to me because I don't want that back and forth. I'd rather you just not have any photos, or we just do decor photos, but like, then you're going to pay for that. Like, we're going to figure this out. Anyways, there was probably like 6 or 7 revisions that got sent back the first time. I responded to their questions being like, I'm not changing any of this. Here's why it's in my contract. I'm really open to like, if you have questions, hit me because I know what I'm selling. So like, I'm happy to answer. But then they just kept sending revisions. So at this point, I said to them, you know what? I don't think this is a good fit. I think that you need somebody with a different type of approach to wedding planning. I'm happy to refer those people to you. Best of luck. They then tried to send in their deposit to be like, no. Like, we love you. We want you. Here's the deposit. I was like, I'm not taking this deposit. This isn't a good fit. They ended up hiring another planner. They took the vendor guide that I sent them and booked all of the vendors that I had recommended. And then they hired the next planner, under the guise that they had 80% of their wedding planned and they just needed partial.
Oh, because you planned
Because
some of it.
well, they just had taken everything and booked everything.
Yeah.
And this client ended up being such a nightmare for the venue, the planner. And the only reason I knew is because the planner had reached out to me asking for a confetti call. And I was like, that's so weird that this couple would ask for a confetti call, knowing that like I had essentially fired them. And then the planner came back and was like, they've gone in a different direction. I'm like, of course they did, because they wanted an audio guest book, and then this planner didn't know anything, so they tried to hire me. It was just such a disaster. This poor planner came to my house the one day, we were just chatting, and she's like bawling about how bad this wedding was. And I just knew, I was like, this client was such a red flag. The photographer had issues with them, the venue had issues with them, and I'm sure they're lovely people, but like they wanted something that they weren't willing to pay for, and they wanted something that truly doesn't really exist in wedding planning. They wanted a performance. So it was but it was one of those things where it was like, I literally had to like send money back and be like, sorry.
And that hurts.
Oh yeah.
Like sending that money back.
But you know what
does
hurts more?
not feel good.
Crying in your living room after a wedding because it was so bad.
Working with people that you can't stand for a year.
So bad. A year, so bad.
Okay, this is a something that I've had to deal with, and I wonder, like, from a planner's point of view, like, obviously you probably have a lot of stress on you if this ever does happen. Have you ever had a couple break up before their wedding and then you had to be doing quality control kind of thing?
This has happened when I was working in venues, like quite often actually. As a planner, no, because I think the gauntlet, it's like, prove to me you're in love. No, just gonna kiss right now. I need to see you kiss.
You have a mandatory couples therapy like analysis.
Yeah, I want you to go through like a psychoanalysis. No, but I think like when I was working in a venue all the time, I had actually one time when I was in venue sales, this guy, the groom, emailed at like midnight. Like I got the email the next morning and it was like, thank you so much for all your help. We've decided not to move forward with the wedding. Please cancel our contract, and release the date. So they paid 50%. Their wedding was probably 5 months out at this point. Not super close, but still close enough where you're like, oh shit, this is all your vendors are probably booked, whatever. The bride emails back that afternoon and says, I'm really sorry about that. Please disregard this message from so-and-so. We just got into a fight last night. They already had a kid together. It was one of those situations where you're like, oh, my heart just breaks. And I remember in the office, all of us were like, oh my God, who do we call? Do we just pretend it didn't happen? So literally my email response back was, no problem. Please let me know if anything changes. Have a great day. I just
please go to therapy.
Just glossed over it. I was
nothing happened. Nothing happened.
And they did get married.
He must have been so mad to email you like that.
At 11
What guy even knows your email? Come on.
Totally. He was cancel it. Yeah. And she was like, no.
If the bride's emailing you, wedding off.
Yeah.
If the groom digs out your email from all the shit he didn't listen to, that's
rogue.
Serious.
Oh my God. I did have a couple break up a year after they got married. And the only reason I knew is because their wedding photographer was the same one as mine. And so I had like been following, and then all of a sudden all of her pictures were off. And then from her profile, all the pictures were off. And you know, when you're like, you don't know these people, but you're like creeping their Instagram, you're like, oh my God, they broke up.
You were on Instagram for 4 hours, like doing a huge
I'm like,
deep dive.
when was the actual date of like last photo? Like, when did this happen? You're like,
You're looking at
scrolling.
his mom's Instagram to see.
Yeah, that was literally me being like, they did break up. Oh my God, they're over. But yeah, nothing that I can think of like before a wedding
that's
since
good.
I started planning. But yeah,
That's good.
man, I've seen some shit. When I say this out loud, I'm like, I forgot about all these stories.
Yeah, right. I think I still have a couple photos on my website of some couples that have broken up.
Oh, for sure. You guys must have like so many.
I'm like, those are staying on there.
Yeah.
Those
You're like, you guys are
aren't down.
so good looking. You should reconsider. You guys look so good together though.
Your photo as
Oh my God.
It's like him and his wedding suit with a boutonniere.
Jesus. Have you ever had a venue or a vendor back out on a client? So like this has been happening recently. A lot of venues can't stay open and stuff, and we see some devastating stories of clients kind of trying to figure stuff out. So
I'm trying to think on backing out. I did have this one caterer who got the date wrong. And so I was,
Classic.
thankfully it was like a really small event, but I was texting them being like, what time are you loading in? Like, you know, you're an hour late, but like to me, I was like, an hour is not like red flag yet. It's just like, just checking in. And they were like, the event's tomorrow. And I was like, it certainly is not. And so then I literally had to like call in a favor, had somebody come in, and
Were
thankfully.
you in the kitchen, like whipping up grilled cheeses?
No, I was on my phone, like full, like it was like a miracle line of like me just like picking up every phone, like dialing 100 numbers. I think like ended up calling in a favor, and it was mostly just like cocktail style, like grazing board. So it ended up working out. But that to me was like just, and it was like crazy because it was like all the BEOs, all the contracts set, like everything had
The dates
the
on
date
there
correct. And it was just
100
like,
times.
just a fuck up on this person's behalf, and whatever, we all have space to do that, but it was stressful for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I can't think of anything truly like venues closing. No, but again, I think it's when you have a planner, I think you are vetting things so hard that doesn't really happen, because you're like, this, I'm so ready. Like if I'm booking you, like I trust you so much. And of course there are things out of the control of like, I've seen venues like fire people and changeover happen and structures change, but it's like, again, you've hired me to like navigate all of that.
That's like the insurance policy you're getting when you hire a planner.
It is wild to me that people will spend, truthfully, I've seen this time and time again, $100,000 on a wedding and not have a planner and just have a coordinator. And it's like the insurance of that is only on your day then. Like you're just basically trusting that like the 12 hours of your wedding day are going to be managed. To invest that money without somebody to guide you through that, at least even partially, wild to me. It's just an investment that I am personally, it's like, to me, like kind of the equivalent of like buying a house without having an inspector, like not paying. It's like you're investing millions, or in this economy, millions of dollars in a house, and you haven't had somebody like walk through the house first. That's wild to me.
There's that.
How's your house?
Nothing's fallen down, so I think it's okay.
Don't hire a planner. It's not a good investment.
no, but like things could go wrong, right? Like
I had a wedding a few years ago, a local, well-known historical venue, I'll say, flooded 3 days before the wedding.
Oh my God.
Yeah, thankfully they had a planner, and that planner literally created an entire new wedding.
Went over
at a different
time.
venue.
Yeah.
Everything was, no one would have known a thing was different, but
That's the investment.
Yeah.
I've had weddings in the countryside where the generators have gone out. Like I've had things like, it's like, and the client rarely knows.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm
That's your
literally
job.
fucking sprinting.
that's like what we talked about. Like, shit's gonna happen.
It is.
It's like you hire someone with experience so that you don't have to know
I'm
about
your
it.
insurance policy. Like
Yeah.
I'm truly the difference between your venue being flooded and you crying when all of your guests are arriving. And like, it's just different. It's just a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of client? Like, I know that's like very vague, but it's like, I just want to know if I'm a good client. I know
There's 3 things to me that light me up. The first is trust, that you trust me, that you trust your investment with me. I don't do well with clients who micromanage, and there are planners who do really well with that because they have similar personalities. If you're micromanaging me and you want an email every single time I take a shit, like, we're not going to work out. Like, it's just, I'm not good at that. I think I'm getting better at like communication, because I have Jen on my team who's so good at like, she's so thorough. She's like T's crossed, I's dotted. I know my strengths. Emailing you 100 times is not one of them, but I am finding solutions for that. The second piece, I think, to me is guest experience first. I keep talking about this, but if you come to me and you're like, people in my life mean so much to me, I want them to have a great time. Green flag. Like, I'm like, let's do it. Even like you talking about your wedding in Victoria, like you wanting to have something that sticks out in people's mind as like a weekend of their life that they won't forget, not just because it was your special day. That's really cool, and I love that. I think the third thing is just like valuing, even if you can't afford someone, understanding the value. When people say that this is like so inflated or weddings are ripping them off, like that to me is really hard, because I know how hard people work in this industry and I know what they sacrifice and they give up. So I have clients all the time where I will suggest a vendor and they're like, I love this person's work, but it's out of our budget. For them just to say like, it's out of my budget, I'm like, that's totally fine. But for them to go on and be like, weddings are so expensive, we're getting like totally hosed here, this feels crazy, I don't know why this costs so much, like that to me is like really hard for me to work with, because I'm like, you don't value these people and you're going in with the mentality that everyone's robbing you. So I think on the reverse, where people are just like so understanding of what it takes to be in the wedding industry, even if they've never planned a wedding in their life, if they've never even like been to a bunch of weddings, they just see and they're like, what you guys do is amazing. Like that to me is just like, I love that.
We hear all the time people kind of ragging on the wedding industry, being like, oh,
It's so
as
much
soon
more
as you say
expensive.
weddings, everything's like jacked up. And it's like, well, yeah, the like
The work is
pressure
different.
is triple. It's not like,
And it's just, I plan corporate events all the time, and I can tell you that my hourly spend on planning a corporate event versus a wedding is completely different. My time on site is completely different. I typically, with my corporate clients, they have an administrative assistant, a marketing team that is dealing directly with me, making decisions with me on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It is completely different. And so I don't feel guilty when I send out my coordination pricing or my design pricing, because I'm like, I actually have it down to a science of like how many hours I'm spending on this and what I deserve to get paid hourly. And you know what? If I'm not making more than what I made folding jeans at the Gap, this isn't a lucrative career for me.
yeah. And also, they can hire someone cheaper.
They can.
And they should.
And I implore them
we'll be
to.
waiting to see what it looks like.
And you know what? To
can't
me,
wait.
I will always say there are people out there who charge less than me that do great work. And
Yeah.
I think there's room for so many people in this industry to thrive, because I know my bracket and I'm totally fine with my bracket. But what you're paying for with me is what you're getting. And I'm really confident in my processes. I have a team. I'm not just a single person. I have a decade of experience. I have vendor relationships that are, like I said, probably some of the best in the industry. That's what you're paying for with me. So like, I'm totally fine for people to be like, we love your work, but you're not in our budget. And I'm like, I don't get plucked anymore.
No.
It's just
and that's
business.
the kind thing to do, is to send that email.
They're hiring the Lovebirds Dani experience. Like that, they're hiring you.
They're lovebirds.
So, yeah.
You gotta pay.
Yeah.
Pay to be a lovebird.
We would stay here all day. Actually, we might, but
I don't even know what time it is. Is it tomorrow?
it's, yeah, what day is it?
I already dieseled that bottle for us.
Amazing. Okay, we, as usual, are going to wrap up with our little game, I Do or Boo.
I'm a big NFF fan.
Yes.
So I was ready for this game, but I'm scared.
No, don't be scared. We usually just say I do and boo all at one time anyway, but okay. Wearing all black as a wedding vendor.
Me personally, boo.
Yes. Okay.
Boo. I will wear black sometimes, but then it's got to be like, the jewelry's got to be popping.
Yeah.
There's got to be like a good shoe.
Yeah.
I personally believe that like people hire me because they like me. And so to me, I always will be dressed appropriate to the function. If it's more casual, I'll be in more of like a cocktail style affair. If it's more high end or black tie. I will be in something a bit more formal, which can often be black. But I think like I want to differentiate myself from somebody who is maybe bartending. I want to be the person that looks like I'm in control. And so I dress to feel in control.
And that's also kind of a way to show off your like vibe and your style too.
Yeah, totally.
We could work on this. We wear all
I understand why black
time.
makes sense in the service industry because it hides the yuck.
Yeah.
But I even had a wedding last year at Silvertip, and the couple was so sweet, like the sweetest gals. And it was raining, it ended up being cold, so I ended up having like my chunky yellow bright sweater on over top, and everybody kept people were coming up being like, you just look like so much like you belong here.
Aww.
And I was like, that made me feel really good to be like, I fit in with your folks.
I'm part of the
approachable.
wedding.
Come talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm your friend.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, well, take note. We need to go shopping.
I do.
Taking personal calls or answering text messages at weddings.
One of my biggest pet peeves is texting on the floor for any vendors, DJ, photographer, caterer. I understand the logistics of the day, especially like a lot of us don't wear radios anymore if it's like a smaller venue or things like that. Like just walk off the floor for 30 seconds. I see this actually a lot with photographers, truthfully, that text the whole time that they're on the floor when they don't think people are watching, and everybody sees it.
Yeah.
So I just think like, just be mindful of that, like just step to the back. I understand like we will have to take calls. I text vendors all the time. I try to be really present where it's like very obvious that I'm texting. So I'm like in a corner, I have like my schedule. If I need to like check in on my kids, I just like get out of everyone's eyesight. Like just move out the way.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Reading the room and knowing like when you're in a wedding space, all eyes are on you. Even if you don't see anyone, someone's seeing you. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I've had DJs, like this one DJ that we didn't hire actually.
Have a DJ.
He was on TikTok and did not realize that his phone was hooked up to the Bluetooth. So at one point there was TikToks playing, and because he had his AirPods in, he could not hear that it was
Classic
playing in
DJ
the background.
I'm not even surprised.
It was literally the cringiest thing, and up until that point, he had made such a good impression that I was like, I would love to like connect with this person after this event. After that, I was like, you're never getting hired on. It was literally TikToks. You know when it's like a TikTok audio and everybody knows it's a TikTok audio. It's like so TikTok coded. And you're like, just.
And the whole wedding's like, what?
And people are eating dinner. Like it's during dinner. So everyone's seated and like paying attention. It was so cringe.
DJs.
So get off your phone, man.
Okay. Vendors eating before guests. I feel like we might brawl over this.
Okay.
Go ahead.
If I have a venue where I can set up a vendor table, I will get the food allocated to that table in a different format. It sometimes is not first, but it's not usually last. I will schedule it out.
Yeah.
At certain venues, if it's like a restaurant venue or like a hotel, I will actually get your meal in advance and order it from the bar, and we'll have like a separate place to eat, is where I try to do it. What is number one like cringe for me is if there is a buffet line and they see the photographers go up first after the couple, burn it down. I am sorry, this is a luxury service.
Yeah.
You're on the floor.
Yeah.
Sit your ass down.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Like to me, it's just like, it looks so bad on you. And I get that you have to be ready for speeches. I get that, like, I understand the logistics, and I really try to work around how to make it best for all the vendors that they're taking care of. But I also, this is where I'm like, this is the planner in me coming out, where I'm like, guest experience first. And it looks bad to me. If a chef came up and grabbed their plate before everybody else, we'd riot.
Yeah.
So it's like, just take a beat. I'll make sure you get fed.
I'd say if it is a buffet, like I even feel like it is awkward to go up before family and stuff, and like you work your way in the middle or somewhere. But even then, like if you're sat at a table with other people and you go up before
That's a
the
red
table,
flag, though.
like
Yeah.
that's
That's a
so
red
bad.
Like, you have to wait. Even if they're playing those stupid games that you're not going to participate in,
Yeah.
you got to wait.
I think to me, it's just like, it comes down to, again, like, I try to make it, as a planner, this is what we do, is we're like, how do we make sure the vendors are taken care of in a way that is discreet, but non-invasive to the couple, non-invasive to the clients and to the guests, but also that they're taken care of. So we typically, like, I've had photographers, like, this is the things that fire me up, that will be like sitting at the table being like, where's my food? And I'm like, we literally, the chef just finished. Like, you're going to have to sit for a minute. Speeches are going to start probably in 20 minutes. You can eat before or after. Like, I get kind of bitchy about it because I'm like, we're all hungry. Like, I've also been working a 12-hour day.
Yeah, that's true.
Guess what? I'm not eating before.
Yeah.
I'm probably not eating at all. I don't want that for the vendor team, but I'm also, I get really snarky when like when I see vendors being like, waiter, like I need to eat, the speeches are happening, cutting into the buffet line, like things like that, absolutely send me. Like, just be professional, be a tough bitch.
Yeah.
There's a good way to go about it.
And you will always get fed.
Pushing
On my
people
watch,
out
you
of
will
the
always
way
get
to
fed.
get there first is the way Just kidding.
You will eat.
Just
I will make
kidding.
sure you will always eat, but like, you just gotta.
That's why we like working with planners so much, is because they take care of us.
Yep.
But if there's no planner there, sometimes we gotta budge in there because we're hungry.
But if there's no planner there, I'm not there to judge you.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter.
So it's a free for all. It is a free for all. Okay, vendors eating with guests.
Ick. Ick for the guests, ick for the vendors. Like, to me, it's like, that is in some ways like our 15-minute break. Like, that's a coffee break.
Yeah.
It's
And we don't get one.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there.
Yeah, it's coffee. Like, it's just like, that's like your time to remove yourself and reset. And oftentimes, like, charge your batteries emotionally, physically.
Check your phone.
Like, there's a lot of stuff that you do in that time. So I'd actually be out of this space, prefer to be out of this space. I think photographers, it's tricky sometimes because obviously you want to be present for any events that happen.
Yeah.
Can we also get into the habit of just like not photographing people when they're eating? It's so weird.
I say that. I
Just
won't
take a
shoot
beat
during dinner.
Just take a beat. Like,
Yeah.
and like, to me, like, if I can remove you from the space, if it allows it to be that way, and the vendors can connect. Some vendors love to chat and hang out during dinner. Some vendors like literally need to like fully decompress and just like scroll their phone. And I'm really respectful to whatever people need. And I prefer it not to be with guests because I also think it's like, it's just weird. If guests feel weird, they're like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, there's nothing worse than sitting down and the whole table's already been chatting and you're coming in late because you're
like, hi, I'm just the photographer.
Yeah, and you're like, hi guys.
Sometimes you can get away with like a vendor table where if you have like a planner, the DJ will come sit.
Table.
But again, I also feel like sometimes I'm like, as the planner, I'm like, I actually don't want to make small talk right now. I'm like, I need to catch up on things. I want to eat,
I feel like
reset.
that's fine. You could just say that to vendors, but you can't say that to a guest who's
definitely.
like, so what kind of camera you got there?
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
hi.
Yeah, also all this gear that you have to keep close to you and you're like lugging it onto the
Like, so sorry. So
Your
sorry.
camera's off. Yeah.
Can you move your charger plate? I really need to put my shit down here.
So vendor table, let's have those more. Okay, last one. I know what you're gonna say about this. Vendors having drinks at weddings.
What do you think I'm going to say?
You're gonna say boo.
No, I'm going to say I do.
Stop.
So I usually make sure my vendors are taken care of. So I am the first person to go ask my DJ, do you want a Negroni? Do you need a beer? Would you prefer water? I definitely think there's a professionalism, and this is something that I think is very contentious. Some planners are absolutely no alcohol on site. I personally will always have a glass of wine with dinner, but I feel like I'm a person who knows my limits and is very like, and I also know the time and place. If it is not a crowd where that feels appropriate, I will not do that. I think it comes down to like what you've communicated to your couple and what they feel comfortable with. If I feel like it's not the right environment to do that, or my couple would feel weird about it, I can't even think of a couple I've had that would feel weird about it.
I was just gonna say.
Most of my couples are literally like,
any
can
couple
we?
of mine would ever say that.
Like, they're like, let's do shooters, let's like, and so I'm very like, I almost have to do the reverse. Where I'm like, I'm actually only comfortable having a single glass of wine.
I'm gonna be here till 2 a.m.
Yeah, totally.
No, thank you.
So everybody's different. I think like this is probably a contentious topic, but yeah, I have vendors like, I have photographers who will have a glass of wine with dinner. I have photographers who won't. I have DJs who will want to have a glass of wine with dinner and some that won't. And it depends on if they work for themselves, if they have a company. I have such a tight relationship with most of my clients and my vendors that it's just like, we find the flow that works the best. And again, it comes down to like, how are you behaving? Are you funneling a beer at the bar? Probably a bit weird.
The DJ is, I'll tell you that.
Actually, I can say like the most of the DJs I work with, they're good vibes and they're sitting behind, they have a little scotch on the rocks and they're vibing.
We don't know them because the ones we work with are train wrecks.
I cannot wait to show you all of my good DJs. Shout out Tyler, James, frickin' Joash. Like all these guys are homies. They're musicians first. But even think about a
let's get
band.
'em.
You've been at a wedding with a band that doesn't have a drink on stage. They suck.
Yeah,
they're
that's
bad
true, that's
musicians. So to me, it's like let everybody loosen up a minute if they choose.
Yeah.
And if it's appropriate to the environment. Again, this is a Lovebirds wedding experience. Don't come for me.
No one's coming for you. I don't typically drink at weddings just because I usually have to like have a long drive home after
Yeah.
and stay up late. I'm like, if I have a glass of wine, I need 5 or
Yeah.
I'm going to be so tired. But I will say sometimes you just honestly like need a drink.
Totally.
Like, last summer was so hot. I remember this exactly. It was like blazing sun all day. I was so dehydrated and there was a Caesar bar and that Caesar like
Saved your
brought
life.
me back to life.
No, it's truly
resuscitated my heart.
It's truly that. And I think people we live in a culture where drinking is so like overindulgent.
Yeah.
And naturally I'm Latin and European. And so
I'm from Saskatchewan.
I'm from Saskatchewan, so drinking literally is so easy for me. But I also understand, like, I can very easily have a glass of wine with dinner and nothing really happens to me. And for some people, that's not the case. So it's like you have to know what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
But I think, like, assuming that people just are drinking it to be drunk is such a weird North American thing that,
Yeah.
like, doesn't exist anywhere else in
Yeah.
the world, truly. Where it's like everybody else drinks because it's delicious and it's paired and it's supposed to go with your meal and it's digestive and there's all these other reasons. And here we're just like, oh, you're drinking? You must be a lush. And so I think it's like, again, the balance of like, I'm very happy if I'm having a filet mignon to have a little glass of wine with my dinner and I'm like reset. I'm the girly again.
Yeah, you're like, I'm back for the round 2 of this party.
It's like my caffeine. It's like the same thing. It pulls me back.
Fuck me up with a GT during dinner.
Yes, like
mine.
you just need like
I just
you
need
need
it,
the thing
you know?
that just like resets you.
done.
And it's like this mimosa that got us on the new plane.
I'm never doing another podcast without it.
This is the best podcast you've ever produced.
Fucking around with liquid IVs in our wine glasses.
I do love a
Who are
liquid
we?
IV that's in my desk right now. That shit is amazing.
We would be dead in a Scottsdale morgue if we didn't have liquid IV.
This is true.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
To like circle this out.
Yeah.
What is your biggest boo from a wedding planner? What can we do to serve you guys better?
Ooh, I think, okay,
No,
You're like, can you get us dinner?
Thank you. That was awesome.
they don't let us in the buffet.
You're like, exactly everything you just said, bad.
No, you know what it is? Like, I always walk in with all my shit. I'm there early so I can say hi to everyone, whatever. Walk in. I always introduce myself. Hey, I'm Lisa. Most of the time, I've gotten an email from.
I was going to say, have you never?
Yeah, there's been times for sure where I haven't communicated with the wedding planner. Like, I'll have their contact info,
Yeah,
but they
yeah.
haven't reached out,
But they haven't like said like, hey girl.
which is fine. Like, honestly, some
it's not.
things you don't need to chat about.
No, it's not fine. That's weird.
Well,
Take
when I
notes.
walk in and they're just like, or like instantly like give you bad vibes, or they sort of treat you like you're like less than, like you're working for them almost.
Yeah.
I don't like that. That's my red flag.
A couple planners, the moment I hear their name, I absolutely not. Like, just because I've had such bad experiences with them, but that was just them, I think. It wasn't
It's
actually
like their
something
personality,
they do.
not their actual profession.
Yeah.
I think that planners owe it to vendors to do a better job of like, if we're going to say that we're the captain of the ship, then be the goddamn captain.
Wear that hat.
Then check in, say hello, like do the things that make
Yeah.
the ship feel safe. And to hear that, you know, you're not getting an email in advance makes me sad because that's like the perfect opportunity to be like, we've never worked together. I'm so excited. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure everything aligns. Does this make sense with you?
And honestly, it's a give and take relationship, right? Because you can bet that email or that planner that like wasn't that kind to us when we walked in wants our photos. So
Totally.
are we thrilled?
And they don't
to,
wanna pay
send
for
to
them,
the
'cause I
gallery?
don't.
And no,
I don't wanna pay for them.
Firstly, your photographer shouldn't be charging you. But anyway, yeah, I think just having that open communication. There's planners that we get excited about when we see them on the day of sheet because we're like, oh, thank God, my day is going to be so much easier.
Yeah, that's good.
And sharing photos, like, that only benefits everyone, really, right? Like, that's like you're sharing our work. That benefits us. We're like,
tag them in it the next day. Like,
It comes down to like client and guest experience. Like if we're all on the same team and we all equally care about the guests having the most, you know, exceptional experience, it really isn't that complicated.
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
yeah.
This was so fun.
This
has been amazing.
This has literally been so fun and so amazing. And I feel like photographers, vendors, clients, couples can take so much away from this episode. I really do.
Agree. There's a reason everyone kept suggesting you to us, and you just delivered.
Yes, you did.
Well, I
deliver.
appreciate it. I really care about this industry, and I care about the success of the Calgary wedding industry, the Alberta wedding industry. And so I hope that this resonates with people and they get a little tidbit of knowledge. And if not, you just heard me say boom.
Boom. Thank you so much, Dani.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and for these mimosas. A little
Cheers. Little empty glass cheers.
Thank you so much for listening and following along. It would mean the world to us if you could subscribe and leave a rating and a review. 5 stars only.
We come out with new episodes every second Thursday. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at the NFF Podcast and on YouTube at No Fucking Filter Podcast.
We would love to hear from you if you have any episode ideas or any crazy stories to tell.
We are always accepting new sponsorships, or if you'd like to be featured on the podcast, feel free to reach out. Bye.